Have you ever entered a place for the first time, yet felt that you had already been there? Have you ever met someone new, but their presence felt strangely familiar, as if your soul remembered them before your mind did? Most people call this déjà vu and dismiss it as a trick of the brain, but Vedic wisdom suggests something far deeper. What if that sudden familiarity is an echo from a previous life, a hidden samskara, or a sign that you have reached an important karmic moment? The Vedas teach that you are not merely this body, you are the eternal Atman, carrying impressions, relationships, and unfinished lessons across many lifetimes. Today, we will uncover 7 hidden Vedic meanings behind déjà vu, and the final lesson may completely change the way you understand your soul's journey. Lesson 1. Déjà vu is the soul remembering the impressions it never lost. The Vedas teach that nothing the soul experiences is ever truly lost. Every thought, every action, every joy, every fear, every attachment, and every act of love leaves behind a subtle impression known as a samskara. While the body eventually grows old and returns to the earth, these impressions continue to travel with the eternal Atman from one lifetime to the next. Your conscious mind may forget thousands of moments, but the soul never completely forgets what it has deeply experienced. This is why déjà vu can feel so mysterious. In a single instant, you may walk into a place you have never visited, hear words you have never heard before, or witness a scene unfolding for the very first time, yet something deep inside whispers, "I already know this." Your mind searches desperately for an explanation, but none appears. The Vedas suggest that what is recognizing the moment is not your brain, it is your soul. Imagine an ancient temple bell that was struck centuries ago. Even after the sound disappears, its vibration continues to travel in ways unseen. In the same way, every lifetime sends subtle vibrations into the journey of the soul. Those vibrations become samskaras, quietly shaping your instincts, your emotions, your fears, your attractions, and even the strange feeling that a present moment has somehow happened before. Sometimes a familiar scent, a particular melody, a mountain path, the sound of flowing water, or even the eyes of a complete stranger can awaken one of these hidden impressions. Nothing around you may seem extraordinary, yet your heart suddenly becomes still. Time appears to slow down, and for a brief moment the boundary between this life and something far older begins to fade. It is as though the soul recognizes a forgotten chapter that the conscious mind can no longer read. But the Vedas offer an even deeper insight. Déjà vu is not merely about remembering a place or a person. More often, it is the soul recognizing an unfinished lesson. Perhaps long ago you stood before a similar decision and chose fear instead of courage. Perhaps you allowed anger to overcome compassion, attachment to overpower wisdom, or pride to silence truth. Life now presents a different scene with different people, yet beneath the surface, the same spiritual lesson has returned. This is why many people unknowingly repeat the same emotional patterns throughout their lives. They continue meeting different people who create the same pain, facing different situations that demand the same courage, or experiencing the same disappointments in new forms. The outer circumstances change, but the inner lesson remains unchanged until it is fully understood. Déjà vu may be the soul's quiet signal that you have arrived once again at a moment that truly matters. Instead of fearing these mysterious experiences, the Vedic sages encourage us to become deeply aware whenever they occur. Pause for a moment. Observe your thoughts without rushing to explain them away. Notice your emotions, the people around you, and the choices standing before you. Ask yourself, what is this moment trying to teach me? What pattern is returning? What wisdom have I not yet embraced? Often, the answer is not found outside you, but within the silent awareness of your own consciousness. The greatest mistake is to treat déjà vu as nothing more than an unusual sensation. The greatest opportunity is to see it as a sacred invitation. It may be the soul gently reminding you that your journey did not begin with your birth, and it will not end with your death. Every mysterious moment carries the possibility of greater awareness, and every moment of awareness brings you one step closer to breaking the cycle of repeated karma and moving toward liberation. Perhaps the purpose of déjà vu is not to make you wonder where you have been before. Perhaps its true purpose is to awaken you to who you have always been beneath every lifetime, the eternal Atman, silently carrying the wisdom of countless journeys while patiently waiting for the moment you finally remember your true nature. Lesson 2. Déjà vu appears when karma brings you back to an unfinished destiny. The Vedas describe karma as one of the most precise and intelligent laws governing existence. Every thought you nurture, every word you speak, every action you perform, and every intention hidden within your heart creates a subtle cause that eventually produces an effect. Nothing is ever truly lost. Just as a seed buried beneath the earth patiently waits for the right season to emerge, every karmic action waits for the perfect moment to bear its fruit. Sometimes that fruit appears within this lifetime, and sometimes it unfolds across many lifetimes, long after the conscious mind has forgotten the original cause. This is why the Vedic sages never viewed life as a series of random events. Every meeting, every separation, every unexpected opportunity, every painful loss, and every mysterious coincidence carries a deeper purpose. What appears accidental to the human mind may actually be part of an ancient design woven by karma itself. Déjà vu may be one of the rare moments when the soul briefly recognizes that hidden design. Imagine climbing a mountain covered in thick fog. You cannot see the entire path ahead, yet someone standing at the summit can see every turn, every obstacle, and every destination. Your conscious mind is like the traveler walking through the fog. It only understands the present moment. But according to the Vedas, the soul has traveled much farther than the mind can comprehend. It carries the memory of lessons, promises, attachments, victories, failures, and unfinished responsibilities stretching far beyond this single lifetime. When déjà vu suddenly appears, it may be because your soul has arrived at a familiar karmic crossroads. You may have stood at a similar point long ago, perhaps in another birth, facing a decision that shaped your spiritual journey. The names, faces, languages, and surroundings are different now, but the lesson hidden beneath the surface remains remarkably similar. Your soul recognizes the pattern before your intellect can explain why. This explains why some moments of déjà vu feel strangely significant rather than merely familiar. It is not simply that you believe you have seen the room before. It is that your entire being senses that what you choose next carries enormous importance. The air feels heavier. Your heart becomes unusually alert. A silent voice within seems to whisper, "Be careful, this choice matters." The Vedas teach that karma continues repeating its lessons until wisdom replaces ignorance. If compassion was not learned, life presents another opportunity to become compassionate. If forgiveness was refused, another situation appears asking for forgiveness. If attachment controlled your decisions, another relationship arrives to test whether you have finally learned detachment. The universe is not punishing you, it is patiently educating your soul. Many people wonder why they keep attracting the same type of friendships, the same disappointments, the same betrayals, or the same emotional struggles, despite changing cities, careers, or relationships. The Vedic answer is profound. Until the inner lesson changes, the outer pattern often continues. Karma does not merely change your surroundings, it transforms your consciousness, and until that transformation occurs, familiar situations return, wearing different faces. Déjà vu may therefore be the soul's quiet alarm, signaling that an old cycle has returned once again. It is as though the universe pauses for a brief moment and says, "Here is another opportunity. Will you react as you always have, or will you respond with greater awareness?" That mysterious feeling of familiarity may not be about remembering the past. It may be about recognizing the lesson that has followed you across time. Consider how often fear influences human choices. A person remains silent when truth should be spoken. Another clings to a relationship that has already fulfilled its purpose. Someone else abandons a dream because failure seems too frightening. These decisions may seem ordinary, but according to Vedic wisdom, they leave impressions upon the soul. If the lesson remains incomplete, life compassionately brings another opportunity, not because destiny enjoys repetition, but because liberation cannot occur until wisdom replaces unconscious habit. This is why spiritual growth requires awareness instead of automatic living. Most people move through life reacting from old habits without realizing they are repeating ancient patterns. The awakened person pauses before every important decision and asks, am I acting from fear, desire, anger, attachment, or ego? Or am I acting from truth, compassion, courage, and wisdom? That single moment of awareness has the power to break a karmic chain that may have continued for lifetimes. The Vedic sages also remind us that karma is not a prison, it is a teacher. Every recurring challenge carries within it the possibility of freedom. Every difficult relationship contains the opportunity to awaken patience, forgiveness, or detachment. Every disappointment can become a doorway to deeper understanding. Karma repeats not because it wishes to keep you trapped, but because it refuses to abandon you until you discover the wisdom hidden within the experience. Perhaps this is why déjà vu often leaves people feeling both curious and emotional. Something ancient stirs beneath the surface. The soul recognizes that this moment is not isolated from the rest of its journey. It is connected to a much greater story, one written not by chance, but by countless choices stretching across the river of time. The next time déjà vu suddenly stops you in your tracks, resist the urge to dismiss it as an illusion. Instead, become completely present. Observe the people around you. Notice the decision waiting before you. Listen to the emotions rising within your heart. Ask yourself what lesson life is inviting you to complete. The answer may not arrive immediately, but the very act of becoming aware changes the direction of your karma. In the end, the greatest mystery is not why déjà vu happens. The greatest mystery is why it chooses certain moments and not others. The Vedas suggest that it appears when the soul stands before a doorway it has approached before. A doorway where one conscious decision can finally complete an ancient lesson, dissolve a long-carried karmic burden, and move the soul one step closer to liberation. Perhaps the strange familiarity you feel is not your mind remembering the past at all. Perhaps it is your destiny quietly recognizing that this time you are finally ready to choose differently. Lesson 3. Déjà vu is a sacred reminder that your soul has traveled through many lifetimes. Among all the mysteries explored in the Vedas, few are as profound as the journey of the eternal soul. The Vedas declare that you are not this temporary body, nor are you the collection of memories your mind carries. You are the Atman, the eternal, unchanging consciousness that neither takes birth nor dies. Bodies come and go like garments that are worn for a time and then set aside, but the soul continues its endless journey through the great cycle of samsara, gathering wisdom, facing karma, and moving slowly toward liberation. If this ancient teaching is true, then consider what it means. Before opening your eyes in this lifetime, your soul had already witnessed countless sunrises. Before speaking your first words, it had already lived through civilizations that no longer exist. Before taking your first breath, it had already loved, lost, learned, struggled, succeeded, failed, and searched for truth in forms your present mind cannot remember. Your current life is not the beginning of your story. It is simply the latest chapter in a book that has been written over countless ages. This is where the mystery of déjà vu begins to reveal an entirely different meaning. Perhaps the strange feeling you experience is not merely the recognition of a place or a person. Perhaps it is the soul briefly remembering the incredible length of its own journey. The conscious mind lives within the limits of one lifetime, but the soul carries impressions from journeys far older than history itself. Imagine an old traveler who has crossed mountains, deserts, forests and oceans over many decades. After years have passed, he may no longer remember every road by name, yet when he sees a familiar landscape, something inside him immediately awakens. He cannot explain it logically, but he knows he has walked this way before. The Vedas suggest that the soul is much like that traveler. It may not consciously recall every lifetime, but when certain energies, situations, or spiritual moments arise, an ancient recognition quietly returns. This explains why some experiences of déjà vu feel almost overwhelming. You may suddenly stand in a place that seems completely ordinary to everyone else, yet something inside you becomes deeply emotional. Your heart beats differently, your breathing slows. For a few brief moments, the world feels strangely silent, as though time itself has paused. You cannot explain why tears gather in your eyes or why an unexpected feeling of peace, longing or wonder fills your heart. The Vedas would say that your soul has touched an echo of its own timeless journey, but the purpose of these moments is not to make you become obsessed with discovering who you were in previous lives. In fact, the Vedic sages repeatedly warned against becoming trapped by curiosity about the past. They taught that if remembering previous births were necessary for liberation, every human being would naturally remember them. Instead, the veil of forgetfulness exists for a reason. It allows each lifetime to become a fresh opportunity to grow without being overwhelmed by the emotional weight of countless previous identities. Imagine carrying the memories of hundreds of lives all at once. Every friendship, every heartbreak, every victory, every betrayal, every family, every death, and every unfinished dream would fill your mind. The burden would be impossible to bear. The compassionate design of existence allows the conscious mind to forget, while the soul quietly retains only the wisdom it truly needs. Forgetfulness is not a punishment, it is protection. Yet sometimes, for reasons known only to the deeper intelligence of karma, a tiny crack appears in that veil. It lasts only a few seconds. During those moments, the soul whispers through the silence of the mind. This whisper is what many people experience as déjà vu. It is not a complete memory. It is not a detailed vision of a previous birth. It is simply a subtle reminder that your existence is far greater than your current identity. This understanding changes the way you see the people around you. Every stranger you pass may be a soul walking its own ancient path. Every child carries a journey that began long before birth. Every elderly person is not only old in body, but may represent a soul that has gathered immeasurable experiences across countless lives. Suddenly, compassion becomes natural because you realize that everyone is carrying invisible stories that no one else can see. It also changes the way you understand suffering. Many people ask why life sometimes feels unfair. Why are some born into comfort while others struggle from the beginning? Why do certain people naturally possess extraordinary talents while others must work tirelessly for every small success? The Vedas do not offer simplistic answers, but they teach that the soul's journey extends far beyond one lifetime. What appears incomplete within a single life may make greater sense when viewed across many cycles of existence. Karma unfolds with a depth that the human mind cannot fully calculate. This perspective invites humility. Instead of judging others based only on what you can see today, you begin to recognize that every soul is traveling through lessons you cannot possibly understand. Some are learning patience, others are learning courage. Some are overcoming attachment, while others are discovering compassion. Every life becomes a sacred classroom, and every person is both a student and a teacher. Déjà vu may also remind you that your greatest identity has never been your profession, your nationality, your appearance, or even your name. These are temporary roles worn for a single lifetime. The soul has carried many different names, lived in many different lands, spoken many different languages, and belonged to many different families. Yet beneath every changing identity, one reality has remained constant, the eternal witness who silently observes every experience. This realization has the power to dissolve fear. Much of human anxiety comes from believing that this one life is all there is. We cling desperately to possessions, relationships, achievements, and recognition because we believe they define us forever. But the Vedas gently remind us that everything material is temporary. The body changes, wealth comes and goes, relationships begin and end, even civilizations rise and disappear. The only constant companion throughout every birth is the soul itself. When you begin living with this awareness, your priorities naturally change. You still fulfill your responsibilities, love your family, and pursue meaningful work. But you no longer allow temporary events to completely control your inner peace. You understand that every experience is part of a much greater spiritual education. Success no longer creates arrogance because you know it is temporary. Failure no longer destroys hope because you know it is also temporary. The soul continues learning through both. Perhaps this is the deepest reason déjà vu can feel so powerful. For a brief moment, the illusion that this single lifetime is your entire existence begins to weaken. The soul quietly reminds you that it has walked countless paths before and will continue its journey until it realizes its true nature. That mysterious feeling is not asking you to become fascinated with the past. It is inviting you to awaken in the present. The Vedic sages teach that every birth is an opportunity to move closer to liberation. Every choice rooted in truth weakens the chains of karma. Every act of compassion purifies the heart. Every moment of self-awareness brings the soul nearer to freedom. Déjà vu may simply be one of the universe's gentlest reminders that your journey did not begin when you were born, and it does not end when this body returns to dust. So the next time a place feels strangely familiar, or a moment seems to echo from somewhere beyond memory, do not ask only, "Where have I seen this before?" Ask a far deeper question. What is my eternal soul trying to remember today? That single question may lead you closer to the truth than any memory ever could, because the greatest purpose of the soul is not to remember every previous life. It is to awaken to the timeless reality that has existed through them all. Lesson 4. Déjà vu may be the universe's quiet signal that you are standing at a turning point chosen before you were born. The Vedas teach that life does not unfold as a collection of meaningless accidents. Behind the visible world exists a subtle order that quietly guides the movement of every soul. While human beings often believe they are creating their future one random decision at a time, Vedic wisdom explains that every life is woven from three powerful forces: past karma, present free will, and divine cosmic order. Your past shapes the opportunities that appear before you. Your present choices determine how you respond to them. And the eternal laws of the universe ensure that every lesson arrives at exactly the right moment. This is why certain moments in life feel completely different from ordinary days. Most days pass quietly. You wake up, follow familiar routines, speak to familiar people, and move through time without giving much thought to the deeper meaning of each moment. But then there are rare occasions when everything suddenly feels unusually alive. You meet someone who changes your direction forever. You receive an unexpected opportunity that transforms your future. You hear a single sentence that completely changes the way you see yourself. Or perhaps you stand in an unfamiliar place, overcome by the mysterious certainty that you have already lived this exact moment. The Vedas suggest that these extraordinary moments are not always coincidences. They may be karmic turning points, moments your soul has been moving toward for years, decades, or even lifetimes. Imagine an arrow released from a bow. Once it leaves the string, its direction has already been influenced by the force behind it. In much the same way, every action performed in previous lives sends invisible currents into the future. Those currents quietly shape the circumstances you will one day encounter. long before you recognize an important moment, karma may have already been guiding you toward it. Déjà vu often appears during these moments because your conscious mind is finally arriving at a destination your soul has been approaching for a very long time. Your intellect experiences surprise because everything seems new, but the deeper consciousness does not feel surprised at all. Instead, it whispers with quiet certainty, "This moment matters. Pay attention." Think about the most life-changing events people experience. Few of them seem extraordinary when they first begin. A simple conversation leads to a lifelong friendship. One decision creates an entirely new career. A single act of forgiveness heals generations of pain. One unexpected meeting introduces a teacher whose wisdom changes everything. Great transformations often begin with moments that appear completely ordinary to everyone else. Perhaps this is why déjà vu rarely appears during meaningless moments. It often emerges when your heart is preparing for an important decision, when your life is approaching a new direction, or when your soul stands before a lesson that could reshape its future. The strange familiarity is not necessarily telling you that the event has happened before. It may be telling you that your soul recognizes the significance of what is happening now. The Vedas also remind us that every soul enters this world with certain lessons waiting to be learned. No two journeys are identical. One person may spend a lifetime learning patience. Another may be called to overcome fear. Someone else must discover forgiveness, discipline, humility, compassion, or surrender. These lessons are not punishments. They are opportunities carefully placed along the soul's path to help it awaken to its highest nature. Because these lessons are so important, life has an extraordinary way of bringing them back again and again until they are fully understood. You may think you have escaped a particular challenge, only to find it appearing again in a different city, through different people, under different circumstances. The faces change, the location changes, the story changes, yet the lesson hidden beneath everything remains exactly the same. This is why many people feel trapped in repeating cycles. They repeatedly experience similar heartbreaks, similar disappointments, similar fears, or similar conflicts without understanding why. From the Vedic perspective, the universe is not cruelly repeating their suffering. It is compassionately repeating the lesson until awareness finally replaces unconscious reaction. Déjà vu may be one of the signs that such a lesson has returned. It is as though existence gently pauses and says, "You have reached this doorway before. Will you walk through it differently this time?" The remarkable truth is that the future is not entirely fixed. This is one of the greatest misunderstandings about karma. Many people imagine karma as an unchangeable destiny that forces every event to happen exactly as written. But the Vedas present a much more hopeful vision. While you may not always choose the situations life presents, you always possess the freedom to choose your response. That response becomes new karma, and new karma begins creating a new future. This means that a single conscious decision can alter the direction of your spiritual journey. Choosing forgiveness instead of revenge creates a different future. Choosing truth instead of deception creates a different future. Choosing courage instead of fear creates a different future. Choosing compassion instead of anger creates a different future. The external situation may remain the same, but the soul moves onto an entirely different path because consciousness has evolved. This is why awareness is considered one of the highest spiritual powers in the Vedic tradition. An unconscious person simply repeats old patterns because they do not realize they are repeating them. An awakened person recognizes the pattern, pauses before reacting, and chooses differently. That one pause may seem insignificant, yet it can break a karmic cycle that has followed the soul across many lifetimes. The ancient sages often compared spiritual growth to climbing a great mountain. As long as you continue walking in circles around the base, the scenery changes, but your height never increases. Only when you begin climbing upward do you gain a wider vision. In the same way, Unconscious living creates endless repetition. Conscious living lifts the soul above old patterns and reveals an entirely new perspective. Déjà vu can therefore become one of the greatest invitations to mindfulness. Instead of asking whether your brain has malfunctioned or whether time has somehow repeated itself, ask a far more meaningful question. What decision is life placing before me right now? What lesson is asking to be completed? What quality is my soul being invited to develop? Sometimes the answer will become clear immediately. At other times it may reveal itself months or even years later. The important thing is not to force an explanation, but to remain awake. The soul often understands long before the intellect does. There is another beautiful truth hidden within this mystery. The Vedas teach that the universe is never working against the sincere seeker. Even painful experiences are not sent to destroy the soul, but to awaken it. Every challenge carries hidden wisdom. Every delay prepares inner strength. Every disappointment redirects attention toward a higher purpose. What appears to be an obstacle today may later become the very event that led you toward your greatest transformation. Perhaps this is why moments of déjà vu often leave people feeling strangely peaceful despite their mystery. Deep within, the soul recognizes that it is exactly where it needs to be. Even if the mind feels uncertain, something older and wiser quietly understands that this moment belongs to a much larger journey. The greatest tragedy is not experiencing déjà vu and failing to explain it. The greatest tragedy is rushing through life so quickly that you ignore the moments when the universe is trying to awaken your awareness. Every significant encounter, every unexpected opportunity, every difficult choice, and every mysterious feeling may be inviting you to become more conscious than you were yesterday. The next time reality suddenly feels familiar, resist the temptation to brush it aside. Become still. Observe carefully. Listen with the heart rather than the intellect. You may be standing at one of the most important crossroads of your spiritual journey, a moment your soul has been approaching since long before this lifetime began. Whether you move forward in wisdom or repeat an ancient cycle depends not on destiny alone, but on the awareness you choose to bring into that sacred moment. Perhaps déjà vu is not the universe reminding you of your past. Perhaps it is the universe quietly revealing that the future of your soul is being decided by the choice you make right now. Lesson 5. Déjà vu may be a sign that you have entered the path of your dharma. The Vedas teach that every soul enters life with a deeper purpose, but that purpose is not always revealed immediately. Many people spend years chasing success, approval, comfort, possessions, or relationships without ever asking why their soul was born into this particular life. They follow the expectations of family, society, and fear, yet somewhere within them remains a quiet feeling that they were meant for something more. They may not know what that something more is, but the longing continues to follow them. Vedic wisdom calls this deeper path dharma. Dharma is often misunderstood as a profession, responsibility, or social duty alone, but its meaning is much greater. Dharma is the sacred order that keeps life aligned with truth. It is the path through which your soul expresses its highest nature, fulfills its responsibilities, learns its necessary lessons, and contributes something meaningful to the world. Your dharma is not always the easiest road. In fact, it may be the road that demands the greatest courage from you. Yet when you begin walking it, something within you feels strangely familiar, as though you are not discovering the path for the first time, but returning to a direction your soul has always known. This is where déjà vu may reveal one of its most beautiful meanings. Sometimes déjà vu does not appear because you are repeating an old mistake. Sometimes it appears because you have finally reached the place, person, teaching, or responsibility connected to your deeper purpose. The moment feels familiar, not because it is dangerous, but because your soul recognizes that it belongs there. Perhaps you begin studying a spiritual teaching and feel as though the words are not new to you. You may be hearing them for the first time, yet they seem to awaken something that has always existed within your heart. Perhaps you enter an ancient temple, sit beside a river, walk through a forest, or stand before a sacred image and suddenly feel a peace deeper than ordinary emotion. Perhaps you meet a teacher whose voice feels strangely familiar, or begin helping others and experience the unmistakable feeling that this is what you were born to do. Your mind may say, "This is new," but your soul whispers, "I remember." The Vedas suggest that talents, inclinations, fears, and spiritual attractions do not always begin in the current lifetime. A soul may spend many lives developing certain qualities. One lifetime may strengthen discipline, another may awaken compassion, another may deepen wisdom, another may teach sacrifice, leadership, patience, healing, devotion, or service. When the soul enters a new body, the conscious memory of those lives may disappear, but the inner tendencies can remain. This is why some people are naturally drawn towards certain paths from childhood. A child may feel an unusual love for music without being taught. Another may possess deep compassion for animals. Someone may be fascinated by meditation, ancient scriptures, healing, justice, or service long before they understand why. These attractions may appear as personality, but Vedic thought suggests that they can also be carried impressions from previous spiritual effort. When a person finally begins following such a path, déjà vu may arise as a form of recognition. The soul remembers the vibration of the work even if the mind does not remember the previous story. Imagine a musician who has not touched an instrument for many years. The first few moments may feel unfamiliar, but once the fingers begin moving, an old memory returns through the body. In the same way, your soul may encounter a practice, responsibility, or truth that awakens a skill or wisdom developed long ago. You may feel that you are learning quickly, but perhaps at a deeper level, you are remembering. This does not mean that every strong attraction is dharma. Desire can be misleading. Ego can make a person believe that any exciting opportunity is part of a divine mission. Fear can disguise itself as intuition, and attachment can pretend to be destiny. This is why the Vedas emphasize viveka, the power of discernment. The true path of dharma must be examined carefully. A path aligned with dharma does not merely make you feel important, it makes you more responsible. It does not inflate the ego, it purifies it. It does not encourage selfishness, it expands your capacity to serve. It does not remove every difficulty, it gives deeper meaning to difficulty. It does not always bring comfort, but it produces an inner steadiness that remains even when the outer road becomes challenging. When déjà vu appears around a possible path, the important question is not, does this make me feel special? The important question is, does this make me more truthful, disciplined, compassionate, and awake? Dharma often arrives disguised as responsibility. You may expect your purpose to appear as fame, recognition, or extraordinary achievement, yet it may come through caring for a family member, teaching one child, protecting someone vulnerable, ending a harmful family pattern, speaking truth in a difficult situation, or remaining honest when dishonesty would be easier. The soul does not measure purpose by how many people applaud. It measures purpose by how deeply consciousness is transformed. This is why some of the most important dharmic moments appear completely ordinary. A stranger asks for help. A family member needs forgiveness. A difficult choice demands integrity. An opportunity appears to serve without reward. At such moments, you may suddenly experience an unusual familiarity. Something inside you knows that this moment is larger than it appears. Perhaps your soul has prepared for that decision through many lifetimes. The Vedas teach that dharma is closely connected to karma. Karma brings certain circumstances into your life, but dharma reveals the highest way to respond to them. You may not have chosen the challenge, but you can choose whether to face it with fear or wisdom. You may not have chosen the family, body, or environment into which you were born, but you can choose what qualities you develop through those conditions. Dharma is not escaping your life, It is discovering the sacred purpose hidden within it. This understanding can completely change how you interpret déjà vu. Instead of seeing it only as a memory from the past, you may begin to see it as a signal about the present. Perhaps the soul is not saying, "You have been here before." Perhaps it is saying, "This is where you are meant to become more conscious." There are moments when a person feels lost for many years and then suddenly encounters something that brings all the scattered pieces of life together. Past suffering begins to make sense. Old talents become useful. Earlier failures reveal hidden preparation. Relationships that ended created space for a new path. What once looked like delay begins to appear as training. Déjà vu may arise in such a moment because the soul recognizes the pattern before the intellect understands it. You may feel that life has brought you full circle, but perhaps you have not returned to the same point. Perhaps you have arrived at a higher level of the same lesson. The Vedic sages often described life as a wheel, but spiritual growth is not merely circular. It can also be spiral-like. You may encounter similar experiences again, yet each time from a higher level of awareness. A relationship may remind you of an old one, but now you possess greater wisdom. A challenge may look familiar, but now your heart is stronger. A calling may return, but now you are mature enough to accept it. This is why some moments feel both new and ancient at the same time. The outer form is new, but the inner lesson is old. The opportunity has returned, but you are no longer the same person. Dharma is also connected to Rita, the cosmic order through which the universe maintains balance. The sun rises, seasons turn, rivers flow, seeds become trees, and every part of nature follows its essential law. A mango seed does not struggle to become a rose. A river does not compare its path to a mountain. Each fulfills its nature. Human suffering often begins when people abandon their inner nature to imitate the path of others. They chase another person's definition of success, live according to another person's expectations, and silence the voice within that knows what is true. The farther they move from Dharma, the more restless life becomes. They may achieve many things and still feel empty because outer success cannot replace inner alignment. Déjà vu may sometimes interrupt this false path. You may be moving through a life that looks successful from the outside, yet suddenly a moment appears that awakens a deeper memory. A place, a teaching, a person, or an act of service produces an intense feeling of recognition. For a few seconds, the life you have been living feels distant, and the path before you feels more real than anything else. That moment may be inviting you to return to yourself. But following Dharma requires courage because the familiar social path often feels safer than the unfamiliar spiritual one. You may know that a certain direction is true, yet fear judgment. You may feel called to change your work, relationships, habits, or priorities, yet hesitate because the unknown seems frightening. The soul recognizes the road, but the ego fears losing control. This inner conflict is one of the greatest tests of human life. Will you choose the path that protects your image, or the path that protects your truth? Will you continue living according to fear, or will you trust the quiet intelligence guiding you toward growth? The Vedas do not teach reckless decision-making. Dharma is not impulsiveness. True spiritual alignment requires patience, reflection, discipline, and ethical clarity. A genuine calling remains steady even after temporary excitement fades. It continues to produce responsibility, humility, and service. It survives discomfort because it is rooted deeper than emotion. If déjà vu appears during an important decision, do not treat it as unquestionable proof. Instead, let it become an invitation to deeper inquiry. Ask yourself whether the path agrees with truth. Ask whether it harms or uplifts. Ask whether it strengthens wisdom or feeds obsession. Ask whether your future self would respect the choice. Ask whether the path allows you to become more honest, compassionate, disciplined, and free. The answer may not come as a voice. It may come as quiet inner clarity. The Vedic tradition distinguishes between the restless voice of desire and the calm voice of deeper awareness. Desire usually demands immediate satisfaction. It says, "Take this now, or you will lose everything." Dharma speaks more quietly. It says, "This may be difficult, but it is true." Desire creates agitation. Dharma may create fear at first, but beneath that fear there is a strange peace. Déjà vu may strengthen that peace. It may create the feeling that although you do not understand the road ahead, some ancient part of you recognizes its direction. This does not remove uncertainty, but it gives you courage to take the next conscious step. There may also be another reason déjà vu appears along the path of Dharma. The soul may have made an intention before entering the present body. Vedic traditions often describe birth as part of a larger karmic process, in which consciousness is drawn towards circumstances suitable for its next lessons. This does not mean every painful event was personally chosen in a simple way, nor should suffering be dismissed with careless spiritual explanations. Human life is complex, and compassion must always come before speculation. Yet the broader teaching suggests that the soul enters conditions through which important karma can unfold and essential qualities can develop. If so, certain moments may carry a deeper recognition because they are connected to intentions formed beyond the reach of ordinary memory. You may meet someone and feel that your lives were meant to intersect. You may discover a mission that feels older than your present identity. You may face a challenge that seems strangely designed to awaken exactly the quality you most need. The moment feels familiar because the soul recognizes a promise the mind has forgotten. This promise may not be made to another person. It may be a promise to truth, growth, service, or liberation. Perhaps your soul entered this life determined to end a cycle of anger. Perhaps it came to learn self-respect after lifetimes of dependence. Perhaps it came to transform fear into courage, attachment into love, pride into humility, or confusion into wisdom. When the decisive moment arrives, déjà vu may appear as a silent reminder. This is the lesson you came here to face. Many people spend life waiting for a grand sign, but Dharma often reveals itself through repeated patterns. What problem continues to appear before you? What form of suffering do you understand more deeply than others? What kind of service makes you forget yourself? What truth keeps returning, no matter how often you ignore it? What responsibility creates fear, but also gives your life meaning? These questions may reveal more about Dharma than any dramatic vision. Sometimes your deepest wound points toward your deepest service. A person who suffered loneliness may learn to bring comfort to others. Someone who was silenced may become a voice for truth. A person who experienced confusion may become a guide. The wound itself is not the purpose, but the wisdom created through healing can become part of the soul's contribution. Déjà vu may appear when the wound and the purpose finally meet. You encounter a person, situation, or opportunity that allows your pain to become wisdom. Suddenly, the entire moment feels familiar. You cannot explain why, but you sense that your suffering has led you there. This is one of the most powerful transformations in Vedic thought. Karma becomes dharma when suffering is turned into conscious service. The same experience that once created pain becomes the source of compassion. The lesson that once imprisoned you becomes the wisdom through which you free others. At that moment, déjà vu is no longer merely a strange feeling. It becomes a sacred recognition. Yet there is another important truth. Dharma can change its outer expression as life changes. The purpose of your soul may remain, but the form through which it is expressed can evolve. In one stage of life, your Dharma may be learning. In another, teaching. In one period, it may be caring for family. Later, it may be serving a wider community. Sometimes Dharma asks you to act. At other times, it asks you to wait, heal, forgive, or let go. Therefore, you should not become attached to one fixed identity and call it destiny. Dharma is alive. It responds to time, place, capacity, and consciousness. The deeper essence remains truth, but the outer duty may change. Déjà vu can appear when one stage is ending and another is beginning. You may feel that a chapter is familiar because the soul has completed a similar transition before. The feeling may bring both peace and grief. Part of you knows it is time to move forward, while another part fears leaving the known behind. This is why spiritual turning points often feel emotionally intense. Growth requires the death of an old identity. You cannot become who your dharma asks you to be while clinging completely to who you used to be. The Vedas repeatedly remind us that attachment creates suffering. Even attachment to an old purpose can become a prison. A role that was once sacred may eventually be complete. A relationship that once supported growth may no longer belong to the next stage. A dream that once guided you may need to transform. Déjà vu may not always be telling you to stay. Sometimes it appears to help you recognize that you have already learned what this chapter came to teach. The soul recognizes completion as deeply as it recognizes beginning. You may enter a familiar emotional situation and suddenly realize that you no longer respond in the same way. The person who once controlled your emotions no longer has power over you. The fear that once stopped you no longer feels as strong. The temptation that once defeated you now appears small. In that moment, déjà vu may reveal that the cycle has returned, but you have changed. This is a sign of dharmic growth. The outer scene repeats, yet the inner consciousness rises. The path of dharma is not measured by how many mystical experiences you have. It is measured by the quality of your daily choices. Do you speak truth when lying would protect you? Do you remain compassionate when anger feels easier? Do you fulfill responsibility without demanding praise? Do you continue walking wisely when the path becomes difficult? Do you choose inner freedom over familiar bondage? These choices create the real spiritual journey. Déjà vu may awaken you for a few seconds, but Dharma asks you to remain awake after the feeling disappears. It is easy to be fascinated by mystery. It is far more difficult to live with integrity. The sacred purpose of a sign is not to entertain the mind, but to transform the way you act. The next time déjà vu appears while you are beginning something meaningful, do not rush to label it. Become silent. Notice what the moment is asking from you. Is it calling for courage, service, honesty, forgiveness, detachment, patience? Is it asking you to stop running from a responsibility your soul is finally ready to carry? Perhaps the familiarity is not proof that every detail was predestined. Perhaps it is simply the soul recognizing the quality it came here to develop. Your dharma may not be hidden in some distant future. It may already be appearing through the challenges, people, responsibilities, and opportunities surrounding you now. The mystery is not whether life has given you a purpose. The mystery is whether you are conscious enough to recognize it. And perhaps that is why déjà vu sometimes arrives like a sudden flash of ancient certainty. For one brief moment, the noise of the world becomes quiet. The confusion of the mind weakens, and the soul remembers the direction it was always meant to walk. It may not be saying, "You have lived this exact moment before." It may be saying, "You have finally arrived where your deeper journey can begin." Lesson 6. Déjà vu may be a crack in Maya that reveals the timeless witness within you. The Vedas teach that human beings do not suffer merely because life is difficult. They suffer because they mistake the changing world for permanent reality and the temporary personality for their eternal identity. This mysterious power of misperception is known as Maya. Maya does not mean that the world is completely unreal or that nothing around you exists. It means that you see only the surface of existence while remaining unaware of the deeper reality beneath it. You see the body, but forget the consciousness living through it. You see changing events, but forget the silent witness observing every change. You see beginnings and endings, but fail to recognize the timeless presence in which they appear. From the moment you awaken each morning, Maya begins shaping your perception. You remember your name, your responsibilities, your relationships, your ambitions, your fears, and the story you have built about yourself. You return to the familiar identity you defend throughout the day. You say, "This is my body, this is my success, this is my pain, this is my family, this is my past, and this is who I am." Because these ideas feel so familiar, you rarely question them. Yet the Vedic sages asked a deeper question: who is aware of this identity? You can observe your body, so you cannot be only the body. You can notice your thoughts, so you cannot be only the thoughts. You can watch emotions rise and disappear, so you cannot be only the emotions. You can remember different versions of yourself from childhood, youth, and adulthood, yet something within you remained present through every change. That unchanging awareness is the witness, the silent consciousness that the Vedic tradition points toward as the deepest truth of your being. Déjà vu may become spiritually important because, for a few seconds, it interrupts the ordinary story created by Maya. A moment that should feel new suddenly feels remembered. A place you have never visited seems strangely known. A conversation appears to unfold according to a pattern you cannot logically explain. Time feels unstable, memory becomes uncertain, and the world briefly loses its ordinary solidity. Your mind is disturbed because reality is no longer behaving according to the familiar rules through which you usually understand it. Most people quickly dismiss the experience and continue with their day. But the Vedic seeker pauses. The seeker recognizes that whenever the certainty of the mind is shaken, a doorway to deeper awareness may appear. Déjà vu may not reveal the complete truth about reality, but it can expose how limited your usual perception truly is. It shows you that the mind does not understand everything it confidently claims to understand. Imagine living your entire life inside a vast palace while seeing only one room. Because that room is all you have ever known, you assume it contains the whole palace. You decorate its walls, memorize its corners, and build your entire identity around what exists inside it. Then, for one mysterious second, a hidden door opens. You glimpse a corridor stretching far beyond the room, but before you can explore it, the door closes again. You may not understand what you saw, yet you can no longer be completely certain that your room is the whole reality. Déjà vu can feel like that hidden door. The ordinary mind lives inside the room of linear time. It believes the past is gone, the future does not yet exist, and only the present is real. It organizes existence into a sequence of separate moments. First this happened, then that happened, and something else will happen later. This structure is necessary for daily life, but the Vedas suggest that the eternal consciousness is not confined to time in the same way the body and mind are. The body moves through time. It is born, grows, changes, weakens, and eventually dies. The mind also moves through time. It remembers yesterday, reacts today, and imagines tomorrow. But the witness within you does not grow older in the same way. When you look deeply, the awareness that observed your childhood feels like the same awareness observing this moment. Your thoughts have changed, your appearance has changed, and your understanding has changed, but the basic light of awareness has remained strangely untouched. Ask yourself honestly, does the deepest sense of I am feel old? Your body may feel tired, your memory may feel burdened, and your life story may contain many years, but the awareness behind them does not carry an age, it simply observes. This is one reason the Vedic sages described the Atman as unborn, eternal, and beyond the transformations of the body. Déjà vu may momentarily bring you closer to this timeless awareness. When the present suddenly feels like the past, the mind becomes confused, but the witness simply observes both familiarity and confusion. The experience arrives, remains briefly, and disappears. Yet something within you watches the entire process without being changed by it. The deeper meaning is not only that the moment felt familiar, the deeper meaning is that you were able to witness the mind struggling to understand it. For one brief second, you may have noticed the difference between consciousness and the thoughts appearing within consciousness. This distinction lies at the heart of Vedic self-inquiry. Most people believe they are the voice speaking inside their head. But if you can hear that voice, who is listening? They believe they are their fear. But if fear can be observed, who is observing it? They believe they are their memories. But memories appear and disappear while awareness remains. The Vedic path slowly turns attention away from the changing objects of experience and toward the unchanging subject who knows them. Déjà vu may help create this turning, because it makes memory itself seem unreliable. Usually, you trust memory without question. You believe that familiarity must come from something you have previously experienced. But during déjà vu, familiarity appears without an accessible memory. The feeling says, "This has happened," while the rational mind says, "This could not have happened." Two different levels of experience collide. This collision reveals that memory is more mysterious than it appears. It also reveals that your sense of reality depends heavily on mental interpretation. The same room can feel ordinary one moment and deeply mysterious the next, not because the walls have changed, but because consciousness is experiencing them differently. Maya works through interpretation. It takes the raw movement of life and covers it with names, judgments, memories, expectations, and attachments. You no longer see a person clearly. You see your opinion of them. You no longer experience the present moment directly. You experience it through past pain or future fear. You no longer see yourself as consciousness. You see yourself through the labels given by society. Every label becomes another layer of the veil. You may be called successful, unsuccessful, attractive, unattractive, intelligent, weak, respected, rejected, married, unmarried, young or old. Over time, these descriptions become so deeply absorbed that you stop seeing them as temporary ideas and begin treating them as your permanent identity. You forget that before anyone gave you a name, awareness was already present. Before society judged you, consciousness was already shining. Before you succeeded or failed, the witness existed untouched by both. Déjà vu can briefly disturb these labels because it creates an experience the personality cannot easily control. The ego wants reality to remain predictable. It wants to believe that it understands where it came from, what is happening now, and what will happen next. But déjà vu interrupts this certainty. It reminds you that existence contains depths the ego cannot organize. This is why the experience can feel unsettling. The mind fears what it cannot explain because explanation gives it a sense of control. When reality escapes its categories, the ego becomes uncomfortable. Yet the spiritual seeker sees this discomfort as an opportunity. What frightens the ego may liberate consciousness. The Vedic sages often compared ordinary life to a dream. While dreaming, everything appears real. You run from danger, feel joy, experience grief, speak to people, visit places, and become completely absorbed in the dream identity. Only after awakening do you realize that the entire world appeared within consciousness. The dream body, dream people, dream landscape, dream time, and dream emotions all existed as temporary appearances in the mind. During the dream, however, you did not know you were dreaming. Vedic wisdom asks whether waking life may contain a similar form of forgetfulness. You awaken from sleep, but have you awakened from identification? You leave the dream body behind, yet you immediately become attached to the waking body. You realize the dream world was temporary, yet you treat the waking world as if it will remain forever. You understand that dream emotions disappeared after awakening, yet you allowed temporary waking emotions to define your entire existence. Déjà vu can make waking life suddenly feel dreamlike. For a moment, the scene seems strangely familiar, unreal, or repeated. You may feel as though you are watching yourself from a distance, or moving through an event that has already been written. The experience weakens your ordinary certainty and creates a silent question. How much of what I call reality do I truly understand? This question can become the beginning of awakening. The purpose is not to deny the world or neglect your responsibilities. The Vedas do not teach that, because life is touched by Maya, love and duty are meaningless. Rather, they teach you to participate fully without becoming spiritually imprisoned. You can love without believing another person is the source of your eternal completeness. You can work without making achievement your identity. You can care for the body without believing you are only the body. You can experience the world while remembering that everything within it is changing. Maya creates bondage not because the world exists, but because you cling to what cannot remain. You cling to youth, though the body must age. You cling to people, though every relationship changes. You cling to praise, though public opinion shifts. You cling to possessions, though nothing can be carried beyond death. You cling to your personal story, though the person you were 10 years ago has already disappeared. The witness does not cling. It observes the arrival and departure of every experience. Consider the sky. Clouds appear within it, change shape, release rain, and disappear. But the sky is never wounded by their movement. A storm may temporarily hide the sky, but it cannot destroy it. In the same way, thoughts, emotions, memories, fears, and desires move through consciousness, yet the deepest awareness remains open and untouched. The problem begins when you mistake the cloud for the sky. You say, "I am angry," rather than recognizing anger is appearing within awareness. You say, "I am broken," rather than seeing that pain is passing through a consciousness that remains whole. You say, "I am afraid," rather than observing fear as a temporary movement. Language may seem unimportant, but identification creates bondage. The moment you believe a temporary emotion is your permanent self, you surrender your inner freedom to something that will eventually disappear. Déjà vu can become a practice of witnessing. When it appears, instead of becoming consumed by the question of whether the moment occurred before, notice the entire experience. Observe the wave of familiarity. Notice the mind searching for an explanation. Feel the body reacting. Watch curiosity, fear, excitement, or wonder arise. Then ask, what is aware of all these movements? The familiarity changes, the thoughts change, the emotions change, yet awareness remains. This simple observation can reveal more than any dramatic theory about previous lives. It leads directly toward the central Vedic inquiry, who am I? The answer cannot be discovered through intellectual repetition alone. You may read thousands of spiritual books and still remain identified with the ego. You may memorize sacred teachings and continue reacting from anger, jealousy, fear, and attachment. True knowledge begins when you directly observe the difference between the changing mind and the awareness that knows the mind. Déjà vu provides a rare moment when the mind's usual confidence becomes weak. In that gap, self-inquiry may become more powerful. Ask silently, who is experiencing this familiarity? Do not answer with your name. Your name was given after birth. Do not answer with your profession. That role can change. Do not answer with your body. The body has transformed continuously. Do not answer with a memory, because memory itself is uncertain in this moment. Remain with the bare sense of awareness before every description. What remains when the labels fall silent? There is simply presence. That presence existed before the thought, I am experiencing déjà vu, appeared. It remains while the thought is present, and it continues after the feeling disappears. This presence is closer to you than any idea you have about yourself. Yet it is usually ignored because the mind is always looking outward. Maya directs attention toward objects. It says happiness is found in the next possession, the next relationship, the next achievement, the next compliment, or the next experience. The mind keeps moving from one object to another, hoping that something temporary will finally produce permanent fulfillment. But every pleasure eventually changes, and the search begins again. The Vedic sages reversed this movement. Instead of asking which object could complete them, they asked who was seeking completion. Instead of endlessly rearranging the contents of life, they examined the consciousness in which life appeared. They discovered that the seeker's deepest nature was already whole, but this wholeness had been hidden beneath identification. Déjà vu may briefly reverse the outward movement because the ordinary scene becomes mysterious. Attention turns inward. You stop looking only at the place or person and begin examining the feeling arising within you. The experience creates a pause in the restless search. That pause can become sacred. Modern life rarely allows such pauses. People move quickly from one task to another, one message to another, one worry to another. Even moments of silence are filled with screens, noise, and distraction. The mind remains constantly occupied because stillness threatens the identity it has constructed. In silence, the ego cannot hide behind endless activity. Déjà vu unexpectedly creates stillness. For a few seconds you stop. The flow of ordinary thought is interrupted. The present moment becomes intensely alive. This may be why the experience feels more vivid than everyday reality. You are suddenly paying complete attention. From a Vedic perspective, complete attention is already a form of meditation. Meditation is not merely sitting with closed eyes. It is the movement from unconscious identification toward clear witnessing. When attention becomes steady, the layers of Maya begin to weaken. Thoughts may still appear, but you no longer follow every thought. Emotions may arise, but you no longer become completely possessed by them. The world continues changing, but you begin discovering the stillness beneath change. Déjà vu may give you a momentary taste of that stillness, but spiritual practice teaches you how to return to it consciously. Without practice, the mysterious feeling disappears and the ego quickly rebuilds its ordinary story. You say, "That was strange," and continue living as before. But with awareness, the moment becomes a reminder to look deeper. You begin observing daily life with greater attention. You notice how often memory controls perception, how quickly judgment covers reality, and how constantly fear pulls attention into an imagined future. You discover that most suffering does not come from the present moment itself. It comes from the stories the mind attaches to it. A person does not reply to your message, and the mind immediately creates a story of rejection. A plan fails, and the mind declares that your future is ruined. Someone criticizes you, and the mind turns a few words into an attack upon your entire identity. The event is small, but mental interpretation multiplies the pain. Maya operates through these stories. It makes imagination feel like fact, and temporary emotion feel like truth. Déjà vu exposes the storytelling nature of the mind because it creates a powerful feeling without a clear story. Familiarity appears, but the mind cannot locate its cause. It searches through memories, compares details, and invents explanations, yet certainty remains unavailable. In this failure, you can see the mind attempting to create order. Rather than becoming frustrated, observe this process with compassion. The mind is a useful instrument, but it is not the master of reality. It can calculate, compare, remember, and plan, but it cannot fully comprehend the infinite mystery of consciousness. A cup cannot contain the ocean. The ego struggles because it wants to contain the ocean. It wants a final explanation for every experience. It wants reality to fit inside its beliefs. Yet the Vedic path requires humility. There are truths that cannot be captured by language and experiences that cannot be reduced to logic. Déjà vu may be one of these experiences. It can be studied psychologically and explored spiritually, without pretending that one explanation removes all mystery. Vedic wisdom does not require blind belief. It invites careful observation. It asks you to use the experience not as proof of personal greatness, but as an opening into self-knowledge. The ego may attempt to turn déjà vu into a special identity. It may whisper that you possess extraordinary powers, that you can see beyond time, or that the universe is giving you secret importance. This is another form of Maya. Spiritual pride is often more dangerous than ordinary pride because it hides behind sacred language. The true sign of awakening is not feeling special. It is becoming less attached to the one who wants to be special. If déjà vu makes you more humble, more attentive, more compassionate, and more curious about consciousness, then it may support growth. If it makes you arrogant, obsessive, fearful, or detached from practical reality, then the ego has captured the experience. The Vedic path always returns to balance. Mystery should deepen wisdom, not destroy discernment. A spiritual experience should improve the quality of your life, not become an excuse to escape it. This is especially important because Maya can appear in both material and spiritual forms. Material Maya tells you that wealth, beauty, power, or recognition will make you complete. Spiritual Maya tells you that visions, signs, memories, and mystical experiences will make you superior. Both keep attention fixed upon what you possess rather than what you are. The witness possesses nothing. It simply is. The more deeply you recognize the witness, the less desperate you become for external validation. Praise may come, but it no longer defines you. Criticism may come, but it no longer destroys you. Success and failure continue, yet your deepest identity is not built upon either. This freedom does not make you indifferent. It makes your actions purer. You can love others without demanding that they protect your ego. You can serve without constantly needing recognition. You can speak truth without making victory your identity. You can experience grief without believing grief has erased your inner being. The witness allows life to be felt completely without becoming permanently captured by any feeling. Déjà vu may be a small doorway into this freedom because it reveals that experience and identity are not the same. You experience familiarity, but you are not the familiarity. You experience confusion, but you are not the confusion. You experience wonder, but you are not limited to wonder. You are the awareness in which all three appear. When this understanding deepens, even ordinary moments become spiritual teachings. Washing your hands, walking through a street, hearing rain, watching a loved one sleep, or sitting alone in silence can reveal the witness. You no longer need unusual experiences to become present. The mystery of consciousness is available in every breath. Yet human beings often require interruption before they begin to notice what is always present. Déjà vu may serve as such an interruption. It breaks the automatic flow of perception and reminds you that the present moment contains more depth than habit allows you to see. Habit is one of Maya's strongest tools. When something becomes familiar, you stop paying attention. You may live in the same home for years without truly seeing it. You may speak to the same people every day without recognizing their impermanence. You may breathe thousands of times without feeling the wonder of being alive. Déjà vu reverses this process. Something unfamiliar becomes mysteriously familiar, and therefore attention becomes intense. The ordinary suddenly feels extraordinary. The spiritual lesson is to bring that same attention into every moment, even when déjà vu is absent. Look at the people you love as though you may never see them again. Listen to their voices without allowing routine to hide their value. Observe the sky as if it were the first sky you had ever seen. Feel each breath as evidence that consciousness is temporarily expressing itself through this body. When attention is complete, life reveals a sacredness that distraction had concealed. Maya does not always hide reality by placing darkness before you. Sometimes it hides reality through excessive familiarity. You believe you know the person beside you, so you stop seeing them. You believe you understand your own mind, so you stop questioning it. You believe tomorrow is guaranteed, so you postpone what truly matters. Déjà vu shocks familiarity itself, reminding you that even what appears known may contain infinite mystery. This mystery becomes deeper when you examine time. Every present moment disappears immediately after it appears. The words you just read have already entered the past. Your body is changing while you sit still. Cells are dying and being renewed. The world is moving, even when nothing seems to move. What then is permanent? The Vedas direct attention toward the awareness in which time is known. Past and future appear as thoughts in the present. A memory of childhood arises now, an image of tomorrow appears now. You never directly experience the past or future outside consciousness. You experience thoughts about them in the present. Déjà vu creates confusion because a present moment carries the emotional signature of a past memory without a clear past event. This shows how past and present meet within consciousness. The feeling of time is not merely located in clocks. It is constructed through memory, expectation, and attention. The witness observes these constructions without belonging to them. When you become deeply absorbed in joy, hours may feel like minutes. During suffering, minutes may feel like hours. In dreams, an entire journey may seem to occur within a brief period of sleep. During meditation, time may appear to slow or disappear. These experiences reveal that psychological time is flexible. Déjà vu adds another mystery. The present can suddenly feel already lived. The Vedic seeker does not need to make a final claim about how this happens. The spiritual value lies in what it reveals. Your experience of time is not absolute. The mind interprets time, memory, and familiarity through mechanisms you do not completely control. Therefore, the identity built entirely upon mental experience cannot be the deepest truth. The witness is deeper. This is why the ancient inquiry, "Who am I?" is not philosophical entertainment. It is a direct challenge to Maya. Every false identity is examined and released. "I am the body" is questioned because the body is always changing. "I am the mind" is questioned because thoughts come and go. "I am memory" is questioned because memory fades and can become uncertain. "I am emotion" is questioned because no emotion remains forever. What cannot be removed, awareness remains. Even the sense of being a separate individual can be observed. In deep meditation, the boundaries between self and world may temporarily soften. The usual voice saying "me" and "mine" becomes quiet. What remains is simple consciousness, without the constant need to divide reality. Maya creates separation. It says, "I am here, the world is there, and everything must be controlled for my benefit." From this division arise fear, greed, jealousy, competition, and attachment. You fear others because they appear separate. You envy them because their success seems to reduce your value. You cling to possessions because they seem necessary to strengthen the isolated self. The Vedic realization of unity weakens these divisions. When the same consciousness is recognized beneath different forms, compassion becomes natural. Hurting another begins to feel like hurting a different expression of the same life. Service is no longer merely moral duty, it becomes recognition. Déjà vu around another person may briefly soften separation. You meet someone for the first time, yet they feel familiar. The usual boundary between stranger and known person becomes uncertain. For a moment, the soul may sense a connection deeper than social identity. This does not prove a specific past life relationship, but it can reveal how quickly the mind divides human beings into familiar and unfamiliar, safe and unsafe, important and unimportant. Déjà vu interrupts that division. It reminds you that every person carries a depth your mind cannot see. Perhaps the stranger before you has walked through suffering you would understand. Perhaps their soul has learned lessons you still need. Perhaps your meeting will last only minutes, but create a change that continues for years. Maya judges by appearance, but awareness remains open to mystery. The same is true of places. A certain landscape may feel deeply familiar because it awakens a forgotten impression, but it may also quiet the personality enough for the witness to become noticeable. Mountains, rivers, forests, temples, and ancient ruins often create this effect because they remind the human mind of its smallness. Standing before something vast or old, the personal story temporarily becomes less important. Déjà vu may intensify this experience. You feel not merely that the place is beautiful, but that it knows you. The rational mind may reject this, yet the heart becomes still. The important question is not whether the place literally remembers you. The important question is what disappears within you when you stand there. Does anxiety become quiet? Does time lose its usual pressure? Does the ego loosen its grip? Do you sense that your life is part of something immeasurably greater? If so, the place has become a mirror reflecting the timeless witness. The Vedas often use nature to point toward eternal principles. Rivers flow, yet water remains water. Flames change shape every second, yet fire retains its nature. Waves rise and fall, yet the ocean remains. Bodies and personalities are like waves, temporary forms appearing within the ocean of consciousness. Maya makes the wave believe it is separate. It fears death because it thinks its temporary shape is its entire existence. The wave does not realize that, before rising it was ocean, while rising it is ocean, and after falling it remains ocean. Déjà vu may briefly remind the wave of the ocean. For a second, the present moment seems connected to something beyond its individual shape. You sense continuity without understanding it. The body stands in one place and time, yet consciousness feels older, wider, and less limited than the current personality. This feeling can reduce the fear of death, but it should not be used to deny grief or human vulnerability. The Vedic understanding of eternity does not demand emotional coldness. The loss of a loved one still hurts because love expressed through a particular form is precious. Spiritual wisdom does not erase the heart. It gives the heart a deeper foundation. When you know that forms change, you love more consciously. You stop wasting time on meaningless pride. You forgive more quickly. You become less interested in controlling others. You recognize that every meeting is temporary, but consciousness itself belongs to a greater mystery. Déjà vu may carry this reminder in a subtle form. The person before you may feel familiar because something in you knows that relationships extend beyond the visible moment. But the lesson is not to cling more tightly. It is to become more present, loving, and awake while the meeting exists. Maya turns love into possession. It says, "You are mine, and you must remain as I expect." Awareness transforms possession into reverence. It says, "You are a soul walking beside me for a time, and I will honor the lesson of our meeting without pretending I own your journey." This distinction can free relationships from much suffering. A familiar soul may return, but familiarity alone does not tell you whether to hold on or let go. The witness allows you to observe the relationship without becoming blinded by intensity. You can recognize connection while also seeing truth. Does the bond create growth or repeated bondage? Does it deepen compassion or strengthen obsession? Does it support dharma or pull you away from it? Maya confuses emotional intensity with spiritual truth. The witness sees clearly. This clarity is one of the greatest gifts of awakening. You stop treating every desire as guidance and every fear as danger. You observe both before acting. You understand that a feeling may contain information without becoming an absolute command. Déjà vu is also a feeling. It can invite reflection, but it should not replace wisdom. The experience may be meaningful, or it may arise through the mysterious workings of memory and perception. Either way, awareness can learn from it. The spiritual seeker does not need certainty to become conscious. This is important because the ego often delays transformation while waiting for complete certainty. It says, "I will change when I understand everything. I will forgive when every question is answered. I will begin my path when I receive an undeniable sign." But life rarely provides complete certainty. Dharma often requires movement through mystery. Déjà vu may not answer your questions, but it can reveal the limitations of the one asking them. It can teach humility before the unknown. It can remind you that truth is not always captured by explanation. The Vedas describe knowledge at different levels. Intellectual knowledge comes through study, reasoning, and language. Direct knowledge comes through realization. You can read about sweetness, analyze sugar, and memorize its chemical structure, but none of these replaces tasting it. In the same way, you can study consciousness endlessly without directly recognizing yourself as awareness. Déjà vu is not the final realization, but it may create a taste of mystery strong enough to awaken the search. Some people begin spiritual inquiry after suffering. Others begin after beauty, love, loss, dreams, or unexplained experiences. Life uses many doors because every soul is ready for a different doorway. Déjà vu may be one such door. Once the door opens, the real work begins. You must observe the habits through which Maya controls you. Notice how praise excites you and criticism disturbs you. Notice how memory keeps old wounds alive. Notice how desire promises fulfillment but soon creates another desire. Notice how fear constructs futures that have not happened. Notice how comparison destroys gratitude. These patterns are not merely psychological weaknesses. From a Vedic perspective, they are movements of ignorance that keep consciousness identified with the temporary self. Awakening begins in small moments. You feel anger rising and choose not to become its servant. You notice fear and continue acting according to truth. You experience praise without building your identity upon it. You feel grief without believing that life has lost all meaning. Each conscious moment creates a crack in Maya. Déjà vu may create the first crack, but daily awareness widens it. Eventually, you begin seeing that the witness is present during every experience. It is there in happiness and sadness, success and failure, familiarity and unfamiliarity. It does not need a mystical moment to exist. It was present before you learnt the word déjà vu, and it will remain after every memory of this life fades. The greatest spiritual mistake would be to chase the unusual experience while ignoring the awareness that made the experience possible. Imagine someone seeing the moon reflected in a lake and becoming so fascinated by the reflection that they never look upward. Déjà vu is a reflection. Consciousness is the moon. The feeling is temporary, but the awareness knowing it is constant. Turn toward the awareness. When déjà vu appears again, allow the world to become still. Do not immediately force the experience into a theory. Do not fear it, worship it, or build an identity around it. Simply observe. Notice the scene, the feeling, the body, and the thoughts. Then move attention toward the silent presence, aware of them all. Remain there for a few breaths. You may discover that beneath the mystery there is peace. The mind does not know, but awareness does not need to know. The ego wants an answer, but the witness remains complete without one. This silence may be more valuable than any explanation. In that silence, the boundary between past and present becomes less important. The question, "Did this happen before?" is replaced by a deeper question, "What is present now that has been present through every experience?" The answer cannot be spoken completely, but it can be recognized. It is the awareness reading these words. It is the presence that has watched every chapter of your life. It was there when you were a child, when you first experienced joy, when your heart was broken, when you were afraid, and when you found the strength to continue. It remained during every change, silently knowing each one. You have spent your life searching for yourself in the things awareness observes, but the Vedas ask you to turn around and recognize the observer. You are not merely the person who experiences déjà vu. You are the consciousness within which the person, the memory, the familiarity, and the mystery all appear. This does not make your human life unimportant. It makes it sacred. The eternal witness has entered a temporary form through which it can experience, learn, love, serve, and awaken. Every moment becomes an opportunity for consciousness to recognize itself. Maya says you are a temporary being struggling to become complete. Vedic wisdom says you are eternal consciousness, temporarily forgetting its completeness. Déjà vu may be one of the moments when that forgetfulness weakens. For a few seconds, the world no longer feels entirely new. The personality no longer feels like the whole self, and time no longer appears as solid as before. Something ancient stirs within you. You sense that the story of your existence may stretch far beyond what memory can reach. Yet the final purpose is not to recover every lost chapter. The final purpose is to awaken to the one who witnessed them all. Past lives, future lives, dreams, memories, relationships, bodies and worlds may rise and fall within the great movement of samsara. The witness remains. It watches the soul enter form, become attached, suffer, learn, release and continue. It remains patient through every birth, waiting for the moment consciousness stops searching outside and recognizes its own nature. Perhaps this is why déjà vu feels so powerful. It is not merely a repeated moment, it is a temporary failure of Maya to keep reality ordinary. For one brief instant, the veil becomes thin, the familiar world becomes mysterious, and the eternal witness shines through the cracks of the mind. The experience then disappears, the veil returns, and daily life continues. But something has changed. You have been reminded that beneath your name, beneath your memories, beneath your body, and beneath the passing story of this lifetime, there is a silent presence that has never been born and therefore can never truly die. The next time déjà vu arrives, do not ask only, why does this moment feel familiar? Ask, who is the timeless presence to whom familiarity is appearing? Do not rush toward an answer. Let the question dissolve the noise of the mind. Let it carry you beneath memory, beneath identity, beneath fear, and beneath the illusion that you are merely a temporary personality moving through a meaningless world. Remain still enough, and you may sense the hidden truth Maya has spent a lifetime concealing. You are not only the dream character moving through the repeating scenes of existence. You are the awareness watching the dream. You are not merely the traveler passing through time. You are the timeless witness within whom time appears. And perhaps déjà vu is the soul's quiet way of reminding you that although your mind has forgotten the truth, the deepest part of you has never stopped remembering. Lesson 7. Déjà vu may be the soul's final invitation to break an ancient cycle and move closer to moksha. The deepest meaning of déjà vu may not be that you are remembering a place, a person, or a forgotten moment from another lifetime. Its deepest meaning may be that your soul has reached a spiritual doorway it has approached many times before, and for one brief instant it recognizes that the choice standing before you can either continue an ancient cycle or finally bring that cycle to an end. The Vedas describe human existence as a journey through samsara, the continuous movement of birth, death, rebirth, attachment, action, consequence, and return. The soul enters one body, lives through certain relationships, develops desires, creates karma, leaves the body, and eventually enters another form through which the unfinished movement continues. Names disappear, faces change, families change, nations change, and even civilizations rise and fall, yet the deeper tendencies of consciousness may travel onward. Within every lifetime, the soul receives countless opportunities to learn. Some lessons are simple and are completed quickly. Others are so deeply connected to fear, desire, anger, pride, attachment, or ignorance that they may return again and again. A person may understand a lesson intellectually and still fail to live it. They may know that attachment creates suffering, yet continue clinging. They may understand that anger destroys peace, yet repeatedly surrender to anger. They may speak about forgiveness, yet secretly carry resentment for years. Knowledge enters the mind, but transformation has not yet entered the soul. This is why the same lesson may return through different circumstances. The person changes, but the wound feels the same. The relationship changes, but the attachment feels the same. The opportunity changes, but the fear feels the same. The conflict appears in a new form, yet something within you recognizes it immediately. You feel that you have stood inside this emotional moment before, even when the outer scene is completely new. Déjà vu may arise at such a time because your soul recognizes the pattern before your conscious mind can name it. It may be whispering, "This is not the first time you have reached this lesson." You may be standing before someone who awakens an old weakness. You may be facing a decision that demands the courage you once lacked. You may be given an opportunity to forgive where you previously chose revenge. You may be asked to release someone you once tried to possess. You may be invited to speak truth after a lifetime of silence. You may be placed in a situation where humility is required, even though pride has controlled you for years. The scene is different, but the inner crossroad is ancient. This is what makes certain moments of déjà vu feel so powerful. They do not merely carry familiarity, they carry weight. The air seems still. Your attention becomes unusually sharp. Something inside you becomes alert, as though your entire journey has been preparing for this one decision. From the Vedic perspective, such a moment may contain more spiritual importance than years of ordinary living. One conscious choice can sometimes transform the direction of karma more deeply than thousands of automatic actions. Most people live through habit. They react before they observe. They speak before they understand. They cling before they ask whether the relationship is healthy. They run before they ask whether fear is guiding them. They repeat what their parents repeated, what society repeated, and what their own unexamined mind has repeated for years. Karma grows through repetition. Every time anger is chosen, anger becomes easier. Every time fear is obeyed, fear becomes stronger. Every time attachment controls a decision, attachment deepens its roots. Every time the ego is defended at the cost of truth, the false identity becomes more powerful. A single action may seem small, but repeated actions become tendencies. Tendencies become character. Character shapes destiny. Destiny creates the circumstances through which similar tendencies appear again. This is how a karmic cycle becomes strong. The soul does not become imprisoned by one isolated mistake. It becomes imprisoned when unconscious choices become patterns that are repeated without awareness. The chains of samsara are not always dramatic. They are often created through ordinary reactions, repeated so many times that they begin to feel like identity. A person says, "This is simply who I am. I have always been angry. I have always been afraid. I have always chosen the wrong people. I have always needed approval. I have always struggled to let go." But the Vedas challenge this belief. They teach that these patterns are not the eternal self. They are impressions within the mind. They may be ancient, powerful, and deeply rooted, but they are not the Atman. The eternal consciousness is not angry, afraid, rejected, wounded, proud, or incomplete. These qualities move through the temporary personality, but they do not define the timeless witness. Déjà vu may arrive precisely when the soul is ready to see this difference. The old emotion returns, but for 1 second you recognize it as old. The familiar pain appears, but this time you notice it before it controls you. The same kind of person enters your life, but now you can see the pattern. The same temptation arises, but you are no longer completely unconscious. Recognition creates a space. Within that space, freedom becomes possible. Without recognition, you react as before. With recognition, you can pause. In that pause, you are no longer merely the product of past karma. You become the creator of new karma. This is one of the most hopeful truths in Vedic wisdom. Karma influences you, but it does not remove the power of conscious response. The past may create the situation, but the present determines what you do with it. You may not have chosen the wound, but you can choose whether to pass the wound forward. You may not have chosen the betrayal, but you can choose whether betrayal transforms you into bitterness. You may not have chosen the fear, but you can choose whether fear becomes your master. The ancient cycle survives only through unconscious continuation. When consciousness enters, the cycle begins to weaken. Perhaps this is why déjà vu feels like a warning and an opportunity at the same time. The familiarity warns you that an old pattern has returned. The awareness gives you the opportunity to respond differently. The soul may be saying, "You know where this road leads. You may not remember walking the road, but your deepest being remembers the suffering created by it. It recognizes the emotional atmosphere. It recognizes the contraction in the heart. It recognizes the way desire disguises itself as love, the way fear disguises itself as caution, the way pride disguises itself as self-respect, and the way attachment disguises itself as loyalty. The mind may still be tempted, but the soul has become wiser. Spiritual maturity does not mean that old patterns never return. It means that when they return, you recognize them sooner. At first, you may repeat the same mistake for years before understanding it. Later, you recognize it after several months. With greater awareness, you recognize it after a few days. Eventually, you see it in the very moment it begins. Then one day, the pattern appears and you do not enter it at all. That moment may look small to the world, but spiritually it can be enormous. You choose silence instead of saying the words that would create another wound. You walk away instead of begging someone to value you. You forgive without inviting the same harm back into your life. You refuse an opportunity that feeds greed even though it promises success. You remain humble when the ego wants to prove itself. You stop seeking revenge, not because the other person deserves your peace, but because your soul no longer wishes to carry the poison. The old cycle arrives, but it finds no home within you. This is how karma begins to dissolve. Karma is not dissolved by pretending that the past never happened. It is dissolved when the consciousness that created or continued the pattern is transformed. The external situation may still exist, but it can no longer produce the same inner reaction. Imagine a spark falling onto dry grass. Fire spreads quickly because the conditions are prepared. But if the same spark falls onto wet earth, it disappears. The spark did not change, the ground changed. In the same way, a person may insult you, reject you, tempt you, or abandon you. But if your consciousness has changed, the same event no longer creates the same karma. The world may offer the old spark, but your inner ground is no longer dry. Déjà vu may appear because your soul recognizes the spark. It asks whether the old ground remains. This is why some people experience déjà vu during deeply emotional meetings. A stranger enters their life, yet the attraction feels immediate and overwhelming. They believe the intensity must mean the relationship is destined, sacred, or eternal. But Vedic wisdom asks for greater discernment. A soul can feel familiar because it is connected to love, but it can also feel familiar because it is connected to unfinished karma. Familiarity does not always mean harmony. Sometimes it means repetition. A person may return into your journey to help you heal, but they may also return to reveal what you still have not healed. Their presence may awaken attachment, jealousy, fear, dependence, or a desire to rescue them. The bond feels powerful because the lesson is powerful. The greatest mistake is to assume that spiritual familiarity requires permanent union. Some souls meet to stay, some meet to teach, some meet to repay, some meet to awaken, some meet to reveal an old wound, some meet only long enough for one of them to finally choose self-respect, forgiveness, courage, or release. Déjà vu may tell you that the connection is meaningful, but meaning does not always mean possession. The Vedic path teaches that love and attachment are not the same. Love allows another soul to follow its truth. Attachment demands that the person remain in the form the ego desires. Love creates spaciousness. Attachment creates fear. Love honors the soul. Attachment clings to the role. A familiar soul may return, but your lesson may not be to hold them more tightly. Your lesson may be to love without losing yourself. It may be to forgive without returning to harm. It may be to recognize the connection and still accept that its purpose has been completed. This can be one of the most painful karmic tests. The ego says, because this feels familiar, I must keep it. Wisdom says, because this feels familiar, I must understand it. The difference between these two responses can determine whether an ancient cycle continues or ends. Déjà vu may also appear when you are about to repeat a decision that previously created suffering. You may be preparing to enter a relationship despite seeing the warning signs. You may be about to abandon your values for approval. You may be returning to a habit that once destroyed your peace. Suddenly, the moment feels familiar. Perhaps the soul is not predicting the future. Perhaps it is recognizing the beginning of an old ending. It knows the first step because it remembers where the path once led. The rational mind may argue, desire may create excuses, attachment may romanticize the danger. But beneath the noise, a quiet awareness remains. You have felt this before. You have ignored this inner warning before. You have paid the price before. The sacred purpose of the moment is not to fill you with fear. It is to give you another chance. The universe may not prevent you from repeating the cycle. Free will remains, but awareness has been placed before you like a lamp. Whether you use it is your choice. This is why the Vedas place such importance on viveka, the ability to distinguish truth from illusion, the eternal from the temporary, and wisdom from desire. Without discernment, even spiritual experiences can mislead you. Déjà vu can become a source of awakening, or it can become another story through which the ego avoids responsibility. A person may say, this relationship is destined because I felt déjà vu, while ignoring dishonesty, disrespect, or suffering. Another may say, the universe wants me to make this decision, when the decision is actually driven by greed or obsession. The spiritual label does not transform an unconscious choice into a wise one. True guidance does not ask you to abandon intelligence, ethics, or self-awareness. A meaningful sign should lead you toward greater truth, not deeper confusion. It should strengthen responsibility, not excuse harmful behavior. It should reduce the ego's control, not make the ego feel chosen and superior. Therefore, when déjà vu appears, the deepest question is not, what dramatic message is the universe sending me? The deeper question is, what part of my consciousness is being revealed? Is fear returning? Is attachment returning? Is pride returning? Is compassion being asked from you? Is courage required? Is a truth being avoided? Is an old wound trying to recreate itself through a new situation? The sign is not always about the outer event. Often, it is about the inner pattern. The Vedas teach that liberation begins when you stop blaming the entire world for what is happening within your own mind. This does not mean that injustice, betrayal, abuse, or suffering are unreal. It means that after recognizing what happened, you still possess the responsibility to decide what kind of consciousness will emerge from it. You cannot always control what enters your life, but you can become conscious of what you allow it to create inside you. One person experiences rejection and becomes bitter. Another experiences rejection and discovers self-worth. One experiences loss and closes the heart. Another experiences loss and becomes more compassionate. One is betrayed and spends years seeking revenge. Another is betrayed and learns discernment without losing the capacity to love. The event may be similar, but the karma created afterward is different. Déjà vu may arrive when life gives you the opportunity to create a different inner conclusion. Perhaps you were once abandoned and concluded that you were unworthy. Now a new separation occurs and the familiar pain returns. But this time, instead of turning the departure into proof that you are incomplete, you recognize that another person's choice does not define your soul. The circumstance repeats, but the belief changes. That change is liberation. Perhaps you once failed and concluded that you should never try again. Now another challenge appears, carrying the same atmosphere of uncertainty. Déjà vu awakens. The old fear says, you know what will happen, but a deeper awareness responds, I know what happened when I allowed fear to decide. The past is no longer used to imprison the future. It becomes wisdom. This is one of the greatest transformations possible. Unconscious memory becomes conscious understanding. Pain becomes instruction. Failure becomes clarity. The same samskara that once compelled repetition becomes the very signal that helps you avoid it. The wound becomes a teacher. The Vedic path does not ask you to erase every impression. It asks you to purify your relationship with those impressions. A painful memory may remain, but it no longer controls your identity. An old desire may arise, but you no longer obey it automatically. A fear may speak, but you no longer believe every word. You recognize the voice, yet you remain free. Déjà vu may symbolize this spiritual recognition. The feeling says, "This is known." Awareness asks, "Must it therefore be repeated?" The answer is no. Familiarity is not destiny. This truth is essential because many people unknowingly choose what is familiar rather than what is healthy. A person raised in conflict may feel strangely comfortable around conflict. Someone accustomed to emotional neglect may be attracted to distant people. A soul shaped by criticism may distrust kindness because kindness feels unfamiliar. The mind often interprets familiarity as safety, even when the familiar pattern creates suffering. Déjà vu may reveal this hidden attraction. The situation feels known, and therefore a part of you is drawn toward it. But spiritual growth requires asking whether the familiar belongs to your future or only to your conditioning. Not everything your soul recognizes is something your soul should continue. Sometimes recognition is given so that release can occur. The old pattern returns for a final examination. Will you choose what is familiar or what is true? This is where the journey toward moksha becomes real. Moksha is often imagined as something distant, reached only after death, extreme renunciation, or many lifetimes of spiritual practice. But the Vedas also reveal that liberation begins in the present moment whenever consciousness becomes free from identification, attachment, and ignorance. Every time you recognize an old pattern without obeying it, you taste freedom. Every time you release the need to control another person, you taste freedom. Every time you observe fear without becoming fear, you taste freedom. Every time you choose truth over ego, you taste freedom. These moments may not be final liberation, but they are movements toward it. Moksha is not created through one dramatic act alone. It is approached through countless moments in which the soul stops strengthening the chains that bind it. Imagine a prisoner whose chains are made from thousands of links. Removing one link does not immediately open the prison, but every removed link weakens the bondage. Eventually, what once seemed unbreakable falls away. Anger is one link. Attachment is another. Greed, pride, jealousy, fear, and ignorance create others. Every unconscious reaction adds strength. Every conscious response weakens the chain. Déjà vu may arise when one of these links is being offered to you again. Will you add another layer, or will you remove it? This is why the moment can feel spiritually intense. The choice may appear ordinary, but the inner consequence is not. You may be deciding whether to continue a tendency that has followed your soul through many experiences. A few words spoken in anger may strengthen resentment. A few seconds of awareness may end it. A desperate message sent to someone who repeatedly rejects you may strengthen attachment. A moment of stillness may restore dignity. A dishonest opportunity may promise immediate gain. Refusing it may protect the integrity of your entire path. The outer action may be small. The inner direction can be enormous. The Vedic sages understood that liberation is built through the quality of attention brought into these moments. A person may spend years performing rituals, yet remain controlled by ego. Another may quietly choose truth during a difficult test and create profound inner transformation. Ritual without consciousness becomes habit. Conscious action becomes yoga. Yoga, in its deepest meaning, is union. It is the movement through which the divided mind returns toward the truth of the self. Every time you act from awareness rather than conditioning, you move toward this union. Déjà vu may become a form of spiritual practice when it leads you into deeper awareness. You pause, observe, inquire, and choose consciously. The mysterious feeling no longer becomes entertainment. It becomes a doorway into yoga. The universe may be giving you a few seconds of unusual clarity. Do not waste them. Notice what the body feels. Notice which emotion becomes active. Notice who is present. Notice what choice is approaching. Notice whether the moment expands your consciousness or contracts it. Expansion often carries truth. Contraction often reveals fear or attachment. This does not mean every uncomfortable path is wrong, because dharma can be difficult, but beneath dharmic difficulty, there is often a quiet steadiness. Beneath attachment, there is usually agitation. The ego speaks loudly. The soul speaks quietly. Déjà vu may silence the ego long enough for the quieter voice to be heard. This inner voice does not always give you a complete instruction. Sometimes it simply tells you to slow down. It may ask you not to repeat an automatic response. It may ask you to wait until emotion becomes clear. It may ask you to leave, speak, forgive, refuse, accept, or remain still. The most powerful response may not be immediate action. It may be conscious non-reaction. Many karmic cycles survive because people respond too quickly. Anger demands an answer, so they answer. Fear demands escape, so they run. Desire demands possession, so they cling. The emotion creates urgency, because urgency prevents reflection. Awareness removes urgency. It says, this feeling is strong, but I do not need to become its servant. This simple realization can save you from repeating years of suffering. The Vedic tradition teaches that the mind is both the cause of bondage and the instrument of liberation. The same mind that becomes attached can learn detachment. The same mind that creates fear can become disciplined. The same memory that keeps pain alive can become the source of wisdom. The mind is not your enemy. Unconscious identification is the problem. Déjà vu may reveal the mind's stored impressions, but the witness determines how those impressions are handled. When awareness is absent, the samskara acts through you. When awareness is present, you can observe the samskara without allowing it to dictate your future. This is the difference between being possessed by the past and learning from the past. Perhaps your soul has repeated the same lesson across many lives, not because it is weak, but because the attachment is deep. Some patterns are connected to identity itself. You may not merely desire love. You may believe that without another person's love, you do not exist. You may not merely desire success. You may believe failure makes you worthless. You may not merely fear loss. You may believe losing something destroys who you are. Such beliefs cannot be dissolved through surface advice. They must be seen at their root. The root is ignorance of the true self. When you believe you are incomplete, attachment becomes inevitable. You search for people, possessions, and achievements to complete what you believe is missing. When those things appear, you cling. When they change, you suffer. When they disappear, you feel that a piece of your identity has died. The Vedas teach that the Atman is already complete. It does not become greater through praise or smaller through rejection. It is not enriched by possession or diminished by loss. It is the silent consciousness in which gain and loss appear. Déjà vu may awaken this truth when a familiar attachment returns. You recognize the pattern and realize that the object has changed, but the hunger remains the same. Different person, same need. Different achievement, same emptiness. Different possession, same fear of loss. The cycle continues because the outer object was never the true problem. The problem was the belief that the self required the object to become whole. This is why some people achieve everything they once desired and still feel restless. The desire promised completion, but once fulfilled, a new desire appeared. Maya kept moving the destination. The soul becomes exhausted from chasing what cannot provide permanent peace. Déjà vu may mark the moment when this exhaustion becomes wisdom. You see the old desire returning and recognize its promise. You remember, perhaps not intellectually but emotionally, where that promise leads. You finally say, "I have followed this before. It did not free me." This is the beginning of vairagya, inner detachment. Detachment does not mean rejecting life. It means seeing things clearly enough that you no longer ask the temporary to provide what only the eternal can give. You may enjoy relationships, work, beauty, success, and comfort, but you stop demanding that they protect you from impermanence. You love without forgetting that forms change. You serve without needing applause. You succeed without making success your identity. You lose without losing the self. This freedom weakens samsara, because samsara is sustained by craving and aversion. You chase what you desire and run from what you fear. Both movements keep the mind bound to the wheel. Déjà vu may reveal that the same chase or escape has returned. The final lesson is not always to obtain what you once missed. Sometimes the lesson is to become free from needing it. Perhaps you spent lifetimes trying to be chosen. This time, the cycle ends when you choose yourself. Perhaps you spent lifetimes seeking recognition. This time, the cycle ends when you act from truth, even if no one sees. Perhaps you spent lifetimes avoiding loneliness. This time, the cycle ends when solitude no longer frightens you. Perhaps you spent lifetimes controlling others. This time, the cycle ends when you allow life to move without forcing it. Perhaps you spent lifetimes carrying anger. This time, the cycle ends when you realize that forgiveness releases your soul, even when the past cannot be changed. Each ending becomes a movement toward moksha. This is why letting go can feel both painful and sacred. You are not merely releasing a person or habit. You may be releasing an identity that has existed for years. The mind fears this death because it does not yet understand the freedom beyond it. Déjà vu may appear at the edge of this transformation. The old situation returns, and you feel the familiar pull. But another part of you feels tired of repeating the same suffering. The soul has reached maturity. It no longer asks, "How can I keep this?" It asks, "What must I understand so that I can finally be free?" This question changes everything. The ego wants to win the old game. The soul wants to leave the game. The ego wants the person to return. The soul wants the lesson completed. The ego wants the world to apologize. The soul wants peace. The ego wants proof that it was right. The soul wants release from the need to fight. Moksha begins when peace becomes more valuable than repetition. The Vedas do not promise that choosing freedom will always feel pleasant. Old karma can resist dissolution. Attachment may create grief. The ego may produce doubt. The body may experience fear because the familiar pattern once felt safe. When you stop feeding an old identity, it may temporarily become louder. Anger may intensify when you refuse to express it. Attachment may create stronger longing when you begin letting go. Fear may invent terrible futures when you stop obeying it. This does not necessarily mean you are making the wrong choice. Sometimes it means the pattern understands that it is losing control. A flame may rise higher before it disappears. Remain aware. Do not confuse intensity with truth. The old cycle will attempt to convince you that you cannot live without it. It may say that without the relationship, you will be alone forever. Without the achievement, you will be meaningless. Without revenge, you will be weak. Without control, everything will collapse. These are the final arguments of bondage. The witness remains silent because truth does not need to scream. Déjà vu may remind you that you have heard these arguments before. The words may be new, but the fear behind them is ancient. You followed the fear once. You know the result. This time, remain still. Allow the old emotion to pass without building a future upon it. Feel the grief without returning to what created the grief. Feel the fear without treating fear as prophecy. Feel the desire without believing desire must be fulfilled. Every emotion rises, changes, and disappears. The witness remains. This realization transforms déjà vu from a mysterious event into a spiritual practice. You no longer chase explanations about when or where the moment happened. You use the familiarity to observe what has returned within you. The real past life may not be a historical image. It may be the old psychological life you keep recreating in the present. Every time anger controls you, the old life returns. Every time attachment destroys your dignity, the old life returns. Every time fear silences truth, the old life returns. Every time awareness chooses differently, a new life begins. This is rebirth within one lifetime. The Vedas speak of many births, but spiritual rebirth can occur while the body is still alive. The old self dies when its patterns lose authority. A new consciousness emerges when wisdom becomes stronger than conditioning. You may look the same, live in the same home, and speak to the same people, yet inwardly you have crossed into another existence. What once tempted you no longer controls you. What once wounded you no longer defines you. What once frightened you no longer stops you. The cycle has ended before physical death. This is why liberation is not only a future reward, it is a living reality that begins whenever ignorance weakens. Déjà vu may be the moment when you realize that the universe is not asking you to remember another lifetime. It is asking you to stop reliving the same unconscious lifetime now. This insight is more valuable than any dramatic vision. Suppose you discovered that centuries ago you were betrayed by someone. What would that knowledge change if you continue carrying betrayal into the present? Suppose you remembered being wealthy, powerful, or spiritually important. What value would that memory have if pride still controls you today? Past life knowledge without present awareness can become another form of ego. The soul does not need you to know every name it once carried. It needs you to become conscious of the tendency it still carries now. That tendency is the bridge between lifetimes. Heal the tendency, and you transform the journey. This is why the final meaning of déjà vu is not found by looking backward alone. It is found by becoming fully awake in the present. The past may explain the pattern, but only the present can end it. The future may contain liberation, but only the present can move toward it. Every spiritual doorway exists now. The Vedic sages understood that the present moment contains enormous power because it is the only place where awareness can act. Memory is experienced now. Fear of the future is experienced now. Desire arises now. Karma is transformed now. Déjà vu makes the present moment unusually vivid. Use that vividness. Do not become lost in speculation. Become more conscious of your next thought, word, and action. Perhaps the soul gives you the feeling of repetition because it wants you to stop moving automatically. It creates a moment of recognition so powerful that you must pause. Within that pause, the ancient chain becomes vulnerable. One conscious breath can prevent an angry reply. One moment of clarity can prevent a harmful decision. One act of courage can end years of avoidance. One refusal to return to a destructive relationship can complete an old lesson. One sincere act of forgiveness can release a burden carried across decades. One decision to seek truth can redirect the entire journey of the soul. Never underestimate the spiritual power of a small conscious act. The world measures importance by visibility. The soul measures importance by transformation. A famous achievement may create little inner growth. A private decision no one sees may dissolve deep karma. You may be standing alone in a quiet room when the greatest turning point of your life occurs. No one applauds, no sign appears in the sky. You simply decide that the old pattern ends with you. That decision may echo far beyond the moment. It may heal the way you love, the way you raise children, the way you respond to pain, and the way future generations experience relationships. A karmic cycle can move through families as well as individuals. Anger passes from parent to child. Fear passes through silence. Shame is inherited through behavior. Emotional neglect becomes normal because no one questions it. Then one person becomes conscious. They experience the familiar pain but refuse to pass it forward. They say, "This ends here." That person becomes a doorway through which an entire lineage begins to heal. Déjà vu may arise during such a moment because the pattern is older than the individual. The soul recognizes not only personal karma, but a family rhythm that has repeated through many lives. You may feel that you have witnessed the argument before because the same emotional structure existed in your home for generations. You may recognize the silence, fear, control, or abandonment, even though the details are new. The experience is familiar because the pattern has lived through many people. Your dharma may be to end it. This is a sacred responsibility, but it is not a punishment. You were not chosen because you were cursed. You may have reached the level of awareness necessary to see what others could not see. Awareness gives you the power to stop repetition, yet healing ancestral or personal karma requires compassion. Hatred toward those who passed the pattern to you can become another version of the same bondage. They too may have received wounds they did not understand. This does not excuse harm, but it prevents your heart from being consumed by resentment. You can create boundaries without hatred. You can speak truth without cruelty. You can refuse repetition without believing yourself superior. This balance is a sign of spiritual maturity. The ego says, "I am better than those who hurt me." Awareness says, "I will not continue what hurt all of us." The second response leads toward liberation. Déjà vu may therefore carry not only a personal message, but a collective one. The soul may be standing at the point where an old stream of karma can change direction. Imagine a river flowing through the same channel for centuries. The water follows the path of least resistance because the earth has been shaped by repetition. To redirect the river requires effort, but once a new channel forms, future water begins moving differently. Your conscious choice can become that new channel. At first it feels difficult because every old tendency pulls toward the familiar direction, but each new response strengthens the new path. Compassion becomes easier, boundaries become clearer, fear loses authority, truth becomes more natural, new karma becomes new character. New character becomes a new destiny. This is how samsara is transformed from within. The Vedas also teach that liberation requires the purification of desire. Desire itself is not always harmful. The desire to serve, understand, awaken, or live truthfully can guide the soul upward. But desire becomes bondage when you believe your peace depends upon its fulfillment. Déjà vu may reveal the return of an old desire. You see the object, person, or opportunity and feel immediate familiarity. Before acting, ask whether the desire leads toward freedom or deeper dependence. Does it make you more honest? Does it strengthen discipline? Does it support compassion? Does it bring inner steadiness? Or does it create obsession, fear, secrecy, and loss of self-respect? The quality of the desire reveals its direction. A desire aligned with dharma may require effort, but creates expansion. A desire rooted in attachment may create excitement, but eventually produces contraction. Déjà vu does not decide for you. It makes you conscious enough to decide. This freedom is sacred because the universe does not force awakening. It offers signs, lessons, teachers, suffering, beauty, and moments of recognition. But the soul must choose. You can receive the same lesson many times and continue sleeping. You can also awaken in one moment. The difference is readiness. Perhaps déjà vu becomes stronger when readiness has matured. The soul has traveled through enough repetition. It has tasted enough consequences. It no longer finds pleasure in the same illusion. What once seemed attractive now feels empty. What once seemed impossible to release now feels heavy. What once looked like love now reveals attachment. What once looked like strength now reveals pride. What once looked like safety now reveals fear. This clarity is grace. Grace does not always appear as comfort. Sometimes it appears as the inability to continue living unconsciously. The old life becomes unbearable because awareness has grown. Déjà vu may be one expression of that grace. It brings the old pattern into clear recognition so that you can no longer pretend it is new. Once you see the cycle, innocence disappears. You may still repeat it, but now you know. This knowledge creates responsibility. At first, responsibility can feel heavy. You may wish you could return to ignorance, because ignorance allowed excuses. But awareness is the beginning of freedom. The soul cannot return to complete sleep after truth has been glimpsed. This is why spiritual awakening can create inner conflict. One part of you still desires the old pattern, while another sees its consequences. One part clings, while another longs to be free. One part wants comfort, while another wants truth. Déjà vu may intensify this conflict because the moment feels both attractive and dangerous. The old road is familiar, but the destination is also familiar. You stand between repetition and liberation. The Vedic path calls this moment tapas, the inner heat of transformation. Old tendencies burn when they are resisted by awareness. This heat can feel like restlessness, grief, fear, loneliness, or uncertainty. Do not assume discomfort means failure. Transformation often feels uncomfortable because the old self is losing its structure. A seed must break before the plant emerges. A snake must shed its skin. The dawn requires the night to end. Your soul may be shedding an identity that once protected you but now imprisons you. Déjà vu may mark the instant when you realize that the familiar skin no longer fits. You can return to it, but you will never again feel completely at home. The soul has outgrown the pattern. The journey toward moksha is ultimately the journey of releasing every false identity. You are not merely the wounded one, the abandoned one, the successful one, the rejected one, the powerful one, or the spiritual one. These are roles within the passing story. The Atman needs no role. It is the silent reality beneath all roles. Every karmic cycle survives because a role is defended. The victim needs the offender. The superior needs the inferior. The rescuer needs someone to save. The rejected one needs another rejection to confirm the identity. The angry one needs conflict. When you release the role, the cycle loses its structure. This can be terrifying because even a painful identity may feel familiar. A person may prefer known suffering to unknown freedom. They say they want peace, but they continue creating situations that maintain the old self. Déjà vu can reveal this hidden loyalty to suffering. The event returns because the identity still expects it. Awareness asks, who would I be without this story? The ego may have no answer. The witness does. Without the story, you are still present. Without the wound, awareness remains. Without the role, the Atman remains. This recognition is freedom. The final spiritual purpose of déjà vu may therefore be to awaken memory deeper than personal memory. Not the memory of a particular house, city, face, or lifetime, but the soul's memory of its own eternal nature. The world feels familiar because consciousness has appeared through countless forms. The relationship feels familiar because the same awareness meets itself through different bodies. The turning point feels familiar because truth has called the soul many times. The silence feels familiar because beneath all noise, the witness has always been present. The soul is not only remembering where it has been, it is remembering what it is. This remembrance is the heart of moksha. Moksha is not the personality becoming immortal. The personality is temporary. Moksha is the end of ignorance through which consciousness believed it was limited to the temporary personality. The wave recognizes the ocean. The dreamer recognizes the dream. The witness recognizes itself beyond the story. When this realization becomes complete, karma loses its power to bind because the sense of a separate doer dissolves. Actions continue, responsibilities continue, and life continues, but attachment to the results weakens. The individual serves without demanding that the universe protect the ego. This state cannot be created by déjà vu alone. A mysterious experience is not liberation, but the experience can point toward the question that leads there. Who is remembering? Who is repeating? Who is choosing? Who is aware? Follow these questions deeply enough, and the ordinary identity begins to loosen. You may discover that the one who claims, "I have lived this before," is itself a thought appearing in awareness. The memory appears, the familiarity appears, the question appears, all are known by something deeper. Remain with that knowing. The soul's journey through lifetimes may be vast, but the truth of the Atman is immediate. You do not need to travel backward through every birth to find it. It is present now as the awareness reading these words. Every lifetime has appeared within this same fundamental light of consciousness. Bodies changed, personalities changed, memories changed, but awareness remained. Déjà vu may be the moment when the mind briefly senses this continuity. It interprets the continuity as, "This scene happened before," but the deeper truth may be, "The witness of this scene has always existed." This is why the experience can carry both familiarity and peace. Something in you recognizes that you are not beginning from nothing. You are part of an ancient movement of consciousness, yet the Vedas do not ask you to become proud of being an old soul. Age does not equal wisdom. A pattern repeated for thousands of years is still bondage. What matters is not how many lifetimes you have lived, but how awake you are within this one. An ancient soul can remain trapped by attachment. A single conscious moment can move it toward freedom. Therefore, the final lesson of déjà vu is urgency. Not fear, but sacred urgency. This life is another opportunity, but it should not be wasted. The same lesson may return, but there is no reason to postpone awakening. You have already felt the cost of unconsciousness. You have already carried enough anger, attachment, fear, and confusion. How many times must the same suffering return before its lesson is accepted? How many different faces must carry the same wound? How many opportunities must be lost to the same fear? How many relationships must repeat the same imbalance? How many lifetimes must pass before consciousness finally chooses truth? Déjà vu may be the soul asking these questions. It may be saying, "Do not wait for another life to become aware. You do not know how many opportunities remain. You do not know when a person will leave, when a body will weaken, or when a chapter will close. Impermanence makes the present sacred. Choose now. Forgive now. Speak truth now. Set the boundary now. Begin the practice now. Release what has ended now. Stop feeding the pattern now." The soul does not become free through tomorrow's intention. Freedom begins through today's action. This does not mean acting impulsively. It means refusing to use endless delay as another form of avoidance. Reflection is wise. Fearful postponement is bondage. Déjà vu may create the moment of clarity necessary to distinguish the two. When the experience appears, ask whether you are standing before something that must be completed. Perhaps an apology has been delayed. Perhaps a truth has been avoided. Perhaps a relationship has ended inwardly, but attachment refuses to accept it. Perhaps a gift has been ignored because fear of judgment remains stronger than dharma. The moment feels familiar because the soul has approached completion before and turned away. This time, do not turn away. Completion may require action. It may also require surrender. Some cycles end when you do something. Others end when you stop doing. You stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing what repeatedly rejects you. You stop trying to control what belongs to another soul's journey. You stop reopening a door that has already taught its lesson. You stop punishing yourself for a past you cannot change. You stop confusing suffering with loyalty. Non-action can become powerful karma when it arises from awareness. The ego often believes that release means defeat. It wants the final word, the apology, the return, the recognition, or the victory. But the soul may not need any of these. It needs freedom. Sometimes the greatest victory is leaving the story unfinished in the eyes of the world, but complete within your heart. Déjà vu may arise at that final moment. You recognize the familiar desire to return, argue, explain, or cling. But this time, you breathe and allow the urge to pass. Nothing dramatic happens, yet an ancient chain breaks. The universe may remain silent because it does not need to announce every liberation. The deepest transformations often occur without witnesses. You simply feel lighter. The mind may still remember, but the soul no longer carries the same weight. This lightness is a sign that karma has been understood. The memory remains, but the compulsion disappears. This is the difference between remembrance and bondage. You can remember without reliving. You can love without returning. You can forgive without forgetting wisdom. You can honor a connection without forcing it to continue. You can accept the past without allowing it to define the future. This is conscious completion. The Vedas teach that every experience can become a path toward liberation when it is understood properly. Pleasure can teach impermanence, pain can teach compassion, loss can teach detachment, relationship can reveal attachment, solitude can reveal the self, even confusion can awaken inquiry. Déjà vu can become one more teacher. It arrives without explanation and leaves without permission. You cannot force it to remain. This itself reflects the nature of life. Experiences appear, create movement, and disappear. The wise person does not cling to the experience. They receive its lesson. The feeling may last seconds. The awareness it awakens can shape the rest of your life. Perhaps you will never know whether a particular déjà vu came from a past life impression, a familiar karmic pattern, the workings of memory, or a deeper movement of consciousness. Complete certainty may not be necessary. What matters is what the experience makes possible. Does it make you more present? Does it reveal an old pattern? Does it encourage wiser action? Does it reduce attachment? Does it awaken self-inquiry? Does it remind you of impermanence? Does it move you toward truth? Then the mystery has served its purpose. The soul does not need every mystery solved. It needs every mystery used for awakening. This is the final invitation. When déjà vu returns, do not become obsessed with proving where you were before. Ask where your consciousness is going now. Do not only ask which person you may have known in another life. Ask what this person is teaching you in this life. Do not only ask whether the moment was destined. Ask whether your response is conscious. Do not only ask what karma brought the situation. Ask what new karma you are creating through it. Do not only ask whether the soul remembers. Ask whether the soul is becoming free. These questions transform curiosity into wisdom. The ultimate purpose of spiritual knowledge is not to decorate the mind with fascinating ideas. It is to end suffering created by ignorance. If the idea of past lives makes you more attached to a person, more proud, or less responsible, then the teaching has been misunderstood. If it makes you more compassionate, humble, awake, and careful with your actions, then it has begun to serve its true purpose. Your soul may have traveled through countless lifetimes, but this moment is the only one currently in your hands. Use it well. Every person before you may carry an ancient connection, so treat them with dignity. Every choice may create future karma, so act carefully. Every attachment will eventually be tested by impermanence, so love consciously. Every wound can become wisdom, so do not waste suffering. Every repeated pattern can end, so do not call bondage destiny. Every breath brings you closer to the end of this body, so do not postpone truth. Déjà vu may be the universe's quiet way of gathering all these teachings into one mysterious instant. The world pauses. The present feels like the past. The mind becomes silent, and the soul asks, will you live this moment in the same way again? That is the hidden question. Your answer is not given through words. It is given through the consciousness of your next action. If you choose fear again, the wheel continues. If you choose attachment again, the wheel continues. If you choose anger, pride, greed, or illusion again, the lesson returns. But if you choose awareness, something changes. You may not immediately reach moksha, but you turn toward it. You may not dissolve every samskara, but one loses its power. You may not escape samsara in that instant, but you stop feeding the part of samsara living within your mind. This is how liberation approaches, not always through thunder, visions, or miracles, but through the quiet ending of one unconscious pattern after another. The soul becomes lighter each time it refuses to carry what no longer belongs to truth. One day, after enough awareness, enough surrender, enough purification, and enough remembrance, the soul no longer needs the lesson to return. The cycle has completed its purpose. The doorway opens. The repetition ends. What remains is not emptiness, but freedom. Perhaps déjà vu is a small glimpse of that possibility. It reminds you that repetition exists, but repetition is not eternal. The wheel turns, but consciousness can awaken beyond the wheel. Karma continues, but karma can be understood. Maya covers truth, but the veil can become thin. The soul forgets, but remembrance is always possible. You are not condemned to repeat everything you have lived. You are invited to transform it. The next time déjà vu arrives and a place, person, or moment feels ancient, become still. Do not fear the familiarity. Do not romanticize it. Listen beneath it. Perhaps a samskara is awakening. Perhaps a karmic bond has returned. Perhaps your dharma is calling. Perhaps Maya has briefly weakened. Perhaps your soul stands before its oldest lesson. Look carefully at what life is asking from you. Then choose not from habit, but from awareness. Choose not from fear, but from truth. Choose not from attachment, but from love. Choose not from ego, but from the silent wisdom of the witness. That choice may appear small, yet it may be the choice your soul has been preparing to make across lifetimes. Déjà vu may not be telling you that you are trapped in an endless repetition. It may be telling you that the repetition has returned because you are finally strong enough to end it. It may not be a memory of what you once did. It may be a reminder of what you must do differently now. It may not be the past pulling you backward. It may be moksha calling you forward. And perhaps the greatest hidden meaning behind déjà vu is this: your soul does not recognize the moment because it wants to live the same life again. It recognizes the moment because it has reached the place where the old life can finally end, the ancient chain can finally break, and the eternal self can take one more conscious step beyond karma, beyond maya, beyond fear, and beyond the repeating wheel of samsara, toward the freedom it has been seeking since the beginning of time. The next time déjà vu suddenly stops you, and a moment feels older than your memory, do not dismiss it too quickly. Become still. Look at the person before you, the choice in your hands, the emotion rising within your heart, and the pattern quietly returning. Perhaps your mind does not remember, but something deeper within you does. The Vedas reveal that your soul has traveled through countless experiences, carrying impressions, lessons, attachments, and unfinished karma across the great wheel of samsara. Déjà vu may be a faint echo from that journey, but its purpose is not to trap you in curiosity about the past. Its purpose is to awaken you in the present. You may never know exactly where you saw that place before, why a stranger felt familiar, or why one moment seemed to repeat itself. But perhaps the greater question is not, has this happened before? Perhaps the greater question is, will I respond the same way again? Will you choose fear, or will you choose courage? Will you cling to what has already completed its purpose, or will you finally let go? Will you repeat the wound, or will you transform it into wisdom? Will you remain asleep inside the old pattern, or will you recognize that this moment has returned because your soul is finally ready to become free? Your past may have created the crossroad, but your awareness decides the direction. Every conscious choice weakens an ancient chain. Every act of truth purifies karma. Every moment of detachment loosens the grip of maya. Every time you refuse to repeat what once controlled you, your soul moves one step closer to moksha. So when déjà vu returns, do not be afraid of the mystery. Let it remind you that you are more than this body, more than this name, more than this single lifetime, and more than every temporary story the world has placed upon you. You are the eternal witness who has watched countless moments rise and disappear. You are the ancient traveler who may have forgotten the road, but still carries its wisdom. You are the consciousness that can finally choose differently. Perhaps déjà vu is not the past asking to be remembered. Perhaps it is your soul asking to be awakened. And perhaps the moment feels familiar because after many lifetimes of repeating the same lesson, you have finally arrived at the place where the cycle can end, the truth can be remembered, and the path toward freedom can begin.